match them with hiring partners or companies who reserve the right to hire from this pool of verified, we call them champions at the end, but people who make it through the Gauntlet. So if you're watching online, you can go to gauntletai.com. You can apply. And if you're a hiring partner, you're welcome to navigate through the site as well. This is
also, I was going to say, we're going to be here with you all day, and we haven't even done introductions yet.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't I start? It's very nice to meet you all. My name is Drew. I'm the Director of Operations here and the point person for admissions. So I am looking at all kinds of applications and LinkedIn's and resumes and GitHubs and all the like to determine if you have the agency and the grit and the drive and the willpower to come make this crazy jump and do this crazy thing that we call Gauntlet. And, we're super fortunate to be in the middle of really smart people and companies that know they need to have AI, but don't know how to find it. They've had artificial intelligence on their board decks for the last 18 months, but they don't know how to go hire for it. They don't know how to find the talent and curate it. And Gauntlet is raising our hands in the middle of that equation and saying, we'll help you find that talent. And we're also turning to those people that are willing to make the jump and saying, we're finding interesting companies that want to go hire you. And they're willing to make willing to make a bet on you as well. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm the point person for admissions. And if you're interested in applying, please come tap me on the shoulder here today or at the end of the day. And look forward to seeing you pop up in my admissions portal one way or the other. And yeah. John, over to you, sir.
My name is John. The rest about me is not relevant for now. If you do Gauntlet and you make it to Gauntlet and we're here in person together, we will spend quite a bit of time together. And you'll hate me during the cohort, and then we'll be friends after it's done. Not part of the script, but Drew, before we introduce Austin, I would like for you to talk quickly, both to this audience and the live audience, about what an ideal or optimal applicant for Gauntlet looks like.
Look, great question. The ideal candidate is a myriad of couple things. They're either extremely technical, they've been a bona fide software engineer for 3 to 5 years, or they're someone that looks like they're extremely high agency, building at night, building with the tools on the nights and weekends, not because anybody's asking them to, but because nothing would get in their way. And it's hard to find that person on paper. And we're trying to, come up with better ways to screen, better ways to look at GitHubs, better ways to look at LinkedIn's to try to hone in on who that person is. But super generically, it's a high agency person. It's someone who could not be stopped in terms of their capabilities, or could not be stopped in terms of their desire to play with these tools, and play with this technology. And in short, I think that's kind of the ideal person for me. Very technical, very driven, willing to make a gamble, willing to make a jump, and knows they need more talent and training and upskilling and doesn't know quite how to find it. And Gauntlet's the answer for that. So I hope that helps you. And I hope if that's you, if you listen to that and hear that kind of sounds like me, then I hope you apply. I hope I can come meet you in person or come meet you on a screening call. But yeah, that's who I'm looking for in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce Austin in a second. 1 second. I want to say this, though. The input that you need to take to apply to Gauntlet is quite low in the beginning. The actual acceptance rate for Gauntlet is extremely low. Very, very, very low. But the effort that you would need to take to see if you qualify or not is also equally as low. All you have to do is go apply, do a cognitive test, and if you pass that cognitive test, you move into this sort of virtual round of Gauntlet. And if you get through those first 3 extremely intensive remote weeks, you come on site. Gauntlet is always free for you. You don't pay for your travel, room and board, token spend, or food. It's always free. So if it's appealing to you, you should go to gauntletai.com right now and apply. However, I would like to introduce the CEO and founder of Gauntlet, Austin Allred.
Hey everybody, what's up? So as we kick off today's showcase day, I wanted to walk through a little bit. I know you guys are probably, the challengers that are here are probably more on the cutting edge of AI than pretty much anybody else on the planet. And then me and the team, we have the opportunity to spend a lot of time with hiring partners, different funds, different folks out there in the industry who are all trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on in AI and tech, what does the ecosystem look like? And I'm going to share a little bit of what we have discovered and a little bit, for the challengers that are here, kind of what we are talking about with the other side and what we're seeing with all the companies as they try to adopt AI. Better? As they try to adopt AI, as they try to figure out what all of this means for them. So, this is a presentation that we gave to a PE fund that invests in vertical SaaS, but it's pretty much the same for everybody. So at a high level, you all know what Gauntlet is, but for those that are tuning in online, we are an extremely selective AI training program. We select for cognitive ability up front. We put everybody through 10 weeks of 1,000-hour weeks that would be a lot of hours in a week. 10 weeks, 100-hour weeks. So, 1,000 hours of AI intensive training. And then we hook our grads up with jobs on the other side. You can see a bunch of the hiring partners that we work with. That's a small sampling of them, but that's a high level. Now, what we talk about when we're talking to companies is the pace of AI is just moving much more quickly than realistically any company we've ever met can. And this includes the companies that are extremely aggressive, that are investing in retraining and hiring and trying to figure out how to be on the cutting edge. It is just moving incredibly, incredibly fast. The average company that thinks that they're on the cutting edge is actually quite a bit behind. And the companies that know that they're behind are even further behind than they actually know that they are. And that continues and compounds with every passing day. And I mean, funnily enough, I think this deck is like a week old at this point, and there are already like a few model releases that it has missed. When I gave this presentation for the first time 2 days ago, there was only one model release, but I think GPT put out another version today, right? So it's about a week old, and we're now 2 full models behind. And that gives you an idea of just what the pace of change in AI looks like. But what does that actually mean if you're a company or if you're a challenger or a prospective challenger here at Gauntlet? That means that the pace of change of AI is pretty much vertical. And you can look at all these models, and it's one thing to put them all up on a slide, but the change from model to model, the change in tooling and ability of what AI is doing and capable of doing is just vertical. And so our job at Gauntlet is to get you to the cutting edge, and you can just ride that wave because it happens at a velocity that's unlike anything I've ever seen in my career, in my lifetime. I don't know that anybody on the planet has ever experienced anything quite like this before, to where it's such a crazy factor in human productivity. It's a massive force multiplier, and it just gets better and better and better every single day at a pace that I can't even wrap my mind around. So with that said, what we're seeing happen within companies is AI is climbing the org chart. When we started Gauntlet about 1.5 years ago, we would give everybody the same challenge on day one. Okay, you're no longer allowed to write code. You have to get AI to write all of the code for you. We're going to build a Slack clone. It's going to take a week. That was very difficult. By the time, and we treated AI like if you were a senior engineer, you wanted AI to do all the junior engineering tasks, it could do that, but you had to really manage it. You had to very closely review every line of code that was output. It would make mistakes constantly. A couple cohorts later, I think it was arguably doing the job of a senior engineer. And now I think it's probably doing the job of a manager realistically. And we're starting to see the very, very, very early stages of it acting almost like a VP. And this is an abstraction. It's not true one-to-one, but if you think about what the job of a VP in some company would be, it might be something like, hey, we want to optimize for this number, make this number go up. Right now, it takes a lot of tooling and orchestration and a lot of harnesses in order to make that possible. But we are seeing the first companies get to the point where they can actually say, hey, we want to improve ROAS. Now go. And AI can kick off a whole bunch of processes under the hood that makes that possible. That 1 year ago would have seemed like crazy science fiction talk, but it's getting there. And we can talk about the benchmarks all the time, but if you're just talking about line for line writing code, AI is better at writing code than anybody in this room. If you're looking at, tool usage, it's getting better than most people in this room. If you're talking about reasoning, it's starting to get better than most people in this room. But obviously, you compound that just a little bit further. And the most important job most of us are going to be doing in the near future is going to be using AI. And that's very, very different than the way the world used to be. Now, what does that mean for the companies that you're joining? What does that mean for the rest of the world? The headcount math is very different. You're going to see much smaller companies assigned to do much more complex and difficult things. Some of your companies are already, well down that path. Some are just getting started. That doesn't mean that there's going to be massive layoffs all over the place. What we've seen more often is a company that used to be able to do one big project per quarter is now doing 5 or 6 per quarter. And we work with companies in our corporate training side, and they do that. Burn assumptions are changing pretty dramatically. So how much money you need to spend in order to get product out the door is just way, way lower than it used to be. Unless you're building a frontier model, in which it's way, way higher than it used to be. So that is changing pretty dramatically. It just makes sense now if you have leadership at a company that is paying attention at all. Every single company that we talk to, the number one thing they're thinking about is AI fluency. Who's using the tools? Who's using AI the right way? Who understands how the models work? Who understand how the harnessing or all the stuff around the models work, or the orchestration? That is becoming probably the most important skill to have. And pretty much nobody had it like a year ago. So that's a very, very different world. And there's all sorts of stuff that you can do at some companies that you can't. So understanding who the customer is, understanding what unique data and access to learning that you have, understanding what you know that other people in the planet don't is really, really important. Within Gauntlet, we talk about brain lifts, or specifically what you understand that is different from what the consensus view that's within the AI models is. If you understand that and you really leverage it and you push that all the way, you start to open up competitive gaps to where you're gaining more data, you're understanding more, and other people aren't. And so we're starting to see a few companies that are really, really running away in a way that wouldn't have been possible a couple years ago. So all of that is kind of the changing world of AI. Obviously, if you're watching this on the outside, we have 2 paths to help companies adopt that. The biggest that we work with is hiring. So we find engineers, we train them up, we make sure that they're on the cutting edge of AI, and we enable you to hire. So go to gauntletai.com and you can hire. And if you want us to do training internally at your organization, we can do that as well. We have different offerings where we can fly people out to Austin and train them. We can send people to you and train them. We can do all sorts of stuff. So let us know if that is of interest to you, or DM me on X. And as I look at all of this from the perspective of a company that's just trying to build stuff and do meaningful stuff and solve problems, it's very easy, and it has been really the right move in the past, to just ignore technological innovation and stick with what was true 2 years ago, and just don't get distracted and keep your head down. That was the right move a lot of the time a little while back, and it's no longer the right move. That's a path to death and redundancy and getting replaced. So I think net at the end of the day, it is a very, very different world than we used to live in even a couple years ago. It's a different world than it was 6 months ago, and that pace of change is going to stay the same, if not accelerate. So those of you that are going off to hiring companies after that, know that that's the truth. Please stay on the cutting edge. Don't let AI pass you by. For those of you that haven't started on that journey, you're behind, and it's time. And we're here at Gauntlet to help folks along the way, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help you out in that. With that being said, I am going to turn the time back over to the team, and we're going to start looking at some demos. We're going to look at some projects of what you all have built. More than enough talking from me, and we will go from there.
All right. Thank you, Austin. Up next, we're going to dive into demos. And what this really is these are demos put together by people that have completed the program or on the final weeks of the program. These are capstone projects. And a few people get together, pick a topic, and go really hard at that topic and try to build a product, build something small that looks like an MVP for a real company. What else can I add to that, John?
So at this point in the program, you're already 800 to 900 weeks in. Like, I know the faces I don't recognize in the audience. You can probably recognize people who look super exhausted next to you in the audience. It's because they've been at Gauntlet this whole time. So one of the early Gauntlet grads, this guy over here, Lamar, he started this company called Texas Sports Academy, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fastest growing school in all of Texas. He said yes. Okay. So Gauntlet grads have a history of, can you fix this mic, by the way? It's fine for right now, but I just don't like that. Gauntlet grads have a history of finishing the program and then absolutely dominating afterwards. You should talk to this guy after too. Talk to him about his experience. So just to level set with you all for today, all these projects have been initially ideated on and built in the last week. So just to provide some context, like if this was the state after a year of development, you might be like, this isn't super great. But given that all of this was done in 1 week, it's pretty impressive. The core 2 metrics to shoot for during this capstone were either 100 GitHub stars or paying customers. So teams could go down either of that path. So,
and when you think about those 2 KPIs or those 2 metrics, you can accomplish that in a many number of ways, right?
Correct.
You could spend budget on advertising. You could build a small thing and try to make it go viral on X or Twitter or another social media platform. There's a number of different ways to reach that goal or reach that KPI, but those are the KPIs. We've had these small teams come together, pick a topic, go hard on it, and try to get one of those goals. And so again, just to reiterate what John's saying, these teams have had just a few days to really crank and work on this thing. And so we hope it's interesting. We hope you'll evaluate it as a seed of an idea and a jumping off point for an idea or a company or a project or something like that. And with that, I think we're ready to turn it on over to our first team of challengers.
Yeah, the first team has I don't want to dox them really too much, but they have a strong security background. So their product is within that realm of identifying like legitimate business use cases with respect to like, growing demand for AI. So let's give a warm welcome to Team Sephi.
AI is the greatest force multiplier for talent
Everyone,
that there has ever been. I think it's a
we have
bigger
Ian,
force multiplier
Lawrence, and I'm
than the
Daniel.
internet or
We're
industrialization.
Team Sephi. Guys, we are one of the most exciting places in time right now, beginning in the era of AI, where you can literally think of almost anything and you can build it, which is super exciting. And one of the reasons for that is because of MCPs. MCPs allow our LLM or AI to communicate with some of our favorite apps. And because of that, it's been widely used. When they were first introduced about 18 months ago, that first month, 2 million downloads. This month, projected 97 million. 97 million. And because of that, it's just going to get larger and larger as companies begin to adapt more and more into AI. But the issue is, if anyone knows about MCPs and been watching the news or X, it's one data breach after another, all the way to multi-million-dollar companies to even the government of Mexico. And because of that, this is a real issue and a problem we're going to have if the world's turning into AI. So we came up with a solution for that, for MCPs, and creating a firewall for MCPs. No longer do you have this wild west of inviting MCPs into your computer. You're finally going to have full authority as a business or as a personal developer to truly see what you're downloading into your computer. So, for example, on this graph behind me, your LLM will then download any MCP, whether it's a large one or it could be even a 5-star MCP that you grab from GitHub. and you can scan it and verify whether or not it has anything harmful in it. And guys, the research shows it's super easy for a third party to put anything harmful into these MCPs. And once it's scanned, it'll show you anything that might be harmful. And then you have full authority to decide what to do in that situation. No longer will you be blind, but you have full control as a business or as a developer. You can do this on the cloud or even on local. Next slide. And from here, we've now just not only done it for the developer, but we've opened this up to scale. We've opened this up to scale for large businesses, to school districts, hospitals, or financial sectors. And we've finally created the firewall for the future of AI. Ian?
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to walk through a live demo here, if I can switch tabs. So what we've created is, as Daniel said, is the firewall for MCPs. It's essentially a security layer. You can go to getsephi.com online if you want and try this out right now. It is available. One thing I want to point out as we jump into our demo is there's a full CLI layer as well. This will allow you to manage the entire gateway from the command line if that's something that's interesting. I'm going to dive into the dashboard. So this application, as it was mentioned, was set up very quickly with all of the tools that we've learned in the Gauntlet program. We have, and I'll make this a little bit bigger, we have all of our taps, which are the user's connections to an MCP server. We have the servers themselves in the org, and we have all of the status that's available. When you onboard for the first time, you'll have the opportunity to run through a process that helps you set up getting Sephi connected to all of the MCP connections that you might have. There's full agentic help that's built in, and if you have any questions about how the platform operates, you can go ahead and just ask the LLM. We come out of the box with a full set of curated MCP servers that are already set up for the platform, and if you want to, you can go ahead and just add new ones in, which pull them into your org and wait for authentication. Once you have servers set up as taps, then you go ahead and you connect them to the local LLMs, which will allow your Claude on your desktop, your Chat GPTs to all work through Sephi, and then either with Fortress, which is the protection layer, or direct connection, you can go ahead and ensure that everything that's being sent through Sephi is monitored with the traces and so forth are monitored from all of the users that you have. In this demo org, we have several examples that have been set up. Each one of these users potentially has permissions available, and those permissions will tie into the rules and the scanning functionality of the platform itself. And now I'll switch it back over to Lawrence to talk through the security aspects.
All right, it's bad enough if you got an Ian in your group, you got a Daniel in your group, and a Lawrence in your group. You got to try to monitor all that they're doing, all the tool calls they're making, all that they're building, and there's so much going on. But they're not going to be doing as much pretty soon. It's going to be the agents that they're using that's doing all the work, and you don't even know what your agents are doing half the time, and there's going to be more agents than you can count pretty soon. That's probably actually already happened. See, the now, that's when they're crossing. And it's just going to go up. So we scanned a bunch of servers. We did 21 servers that are pretty popular. You can recognize a lot of the names. If you do agentic programming, you know these MCPs. 20 out of the 21 that we scanned were very vulnerable. Now, when I say vulnerability, I mean schemas that were not validated properly or remote code execution. That's someone else executing code you didn't want on your computer. We go to GitHub, or we're going to go to the scan right here. We'll get to GitHub. You pick the MCP server you're interested in scanning, and when it comes back, in this case, you see these little guys on the right-hand side that say defended. That's good. That means we tried to manipulate, we tried to do something bad to your machine, and we failed. That means it was good. But sometimes it's not like that. You see over here, it says prompt injection confirmed. What that means is we try to do a prompt injection, and we were successful. But we don't stop there. We make sure that we replay it at least 3 times so we can confirm that it's actually a vulnerability in your system. You might be saying, what is a prompt injection? That's when your little guy goes out there to finds something from the internet and comes back with what he's supposed to, but comes back with a little bit of extra. That little bit of extra is poison for your agent. It can allow a lot of bad things that you don't want. I'm just going to dumb that down so you can imagine what that means. In this case, give the users API keys. That's bad, right? So why am I talking about prompt injection? GitHub, we did a scan of their stuff, and we found a bunch of these, around 34 issues with their MCP server, a lot of those being indirect prompt injections. And you say, wow, that's amazing, you found something new. That's been there for 11 months. It was discovered by Invariant Labs back in May of 2025. They haven't fixed it, not because GitHub has a problem or is lazy or anything, it's just there's nothing wrong with the server. It's the protocol itself. It can't be fixed. What it needs, and we'll go to the next slide, is something like this, a proxy that goes between and finds out when there's actually an attempt. That's what works with that's how our stuff works. We add rules, we find the prompt injection, and it stops it. The protocol can't see it, and that's why it can't fix it. A proxy can. So every enterprise that has agents, which is going to be every enterprise pretty soon, is going to need Sephi. The only question is, do you want to do it now or find out later? Go to getsephi.com.
Good job, guys. All right, you're not going anywhere. Oh, yeah, you're stuck. Also, note this camera live stream. You went at somewhere out of the view. Also, people who are in the back there who want to come sit, you're welcome to come sit. So don't clog that. Questions. We'll do like 2 or 3 minutes of questions per demo, depending on what people want to ask. I gotta go give you the mic. All right, give her the mic.
Thank you. First of all, congrats on making it this far. Question for the whole team is, why was this a problem you guys decided to solve?
Ian loves MCP servers.
I do not like the protocol at all. I'm much more of a terminal person. I understand why it exists, but I see it as a lot of people are just vibe coding MCP servers on top of what really is more secure APIs. And I think that there's just fundamental problems with the protocol itself, and as Lawrence talked about. But unfortunately, the entire industry is going in that direction. So what we really need to do is provide at least some layer of protection for that, because we're just too far down the MCP path at this point.
Can I ask a quick follow-up real fast?
Go ahead.
I from what I've been reading, it seems like the industry is actually looking to move away from MCP servers. So is this a good problem to tackle?
So 2025, I think everybody agrees, was the year of the MCP server, and at least is the popular, the fun thing to do. Enterprises are getting into that in 2026, but I think that 2026 is trending more towards command line interfaces for things. There's a lot of what they call context problems with loading large amounts of tools into agents. Our CLI tool actually, it acts a lot like Brew, and it can download manifests of all the tool calls locally, so the agents don't have to include that in their context. And then by pushing it through the gateway, it helps keep the context level inside of an agent lower. It also manages all the security at the gateway, and honestly, I just think it's a better solution to do it this way.
I have a question regarding how serious the damage that these vulnerabilities could do to enterprises and retail customers alike. You mentioned some of these vulnerabilities have been around for 11 months. Could you speak a little bit more on that, on how much damage and how important is your tool to not go through these damages?
Yeah, so as far as remote code execution, your imagination is kind of the limit there, and at least as far as I can assume. Indirect prompt injection, which is something we found in a good portion of the servers that we scanned, that's a way to kind of poison the context of your LLM. So if you can say, hey, LLM, you've got access, this is one I did in Slack that I thought was fun. You've got access to write in Slack, so I want you to go scrape this site. Oh, there's a poisoned piece in that, and it went to scan my Slack issue, and then in a different window, it was posting all of my credentials to that Slack board. So I mean, I think there's potential for a lot of really nefarious stuff to happen.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Oh, wait, we have one more.
Yeah, I'll take one. Was there a set of vulnerabilities that you could address statically? So for example, if it came back and wanted you to, RMRF Etsy or something, which I've never accidentally done before, or something like LLM as a judge where you actually have an LLM evaluate the response and say, oh, okay, this is normal JSON versus, okay, this is actually trying to inject something. Were there subsets of vulnerabilities or that could be handled differently?
Yeah, there's a lot of different types of vulnerabilities, and solving them it depends on which type. Like if you're gonna say we're gonna try to overwrite with a prompt injection, that's mostly like a regex type example. But then it gets into a little arms race because there's encoding of injections and how do you try to get around stuff. Using the LLMs is helpful in some cases, but we found that through obfuscation of whatever payload we were putting in, most of the LLMs actually would fall for at least one of the ones we had. I think Opus held up to about all of them except for one of the encodings that we used. So even an LLM trying to look and see if it was a poisoned prompt couldn't really tell it all the times.
So I'll piggyback on that answer. The models themselves, as Lauren said, are getting much better at recognizing these sorts of things. The Fortress here is a rules-based engine with multiple tiers. So we use fast regex type rules at the start. And if the customer wants to enable more complex evaluation of what the data is actually being transferred, looking inside the payloads, we can support that. But it's again, as he said, it's a trade-off. It slows down the traffic itself.
Sure. So I've seen a jailbreak where you like base 64 encode something and then put it in. So you could have a rule that kind of decodes that perhaps on the fly and then.
Yeah, the LLMs, most of the LLMs fall for that. Like I said, Opus doesn't fall for base 64 encoding of it. Haiku did, GPT did, I think Grok did, but Opus wasn't falling for that. And I think maybe the latest GPT didn't fall for it.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, let's jump to the right deck here. Or the right starting point, rather. All right. Give it on up for Team Ember.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damien. This is Cien. This is Joe. And this is Cade. We are Team Ember. We have built a phonics-based literacy app for teaching children how to read with a special emphasis paid towards children with dyslexia. So I grew up dyslexic, and it caused a lot of problems for me. And dyslexia is actually hereditary. So my children are more likely to have dyslexia than the average population. So this is a very important application to me personally. And I'm not alone. 1 in 5 children is actually dyslexic to varying degrees, some more easily compensated than others. As well as 70% of US 4th graders are actually reading below grade level. So it's now more critical than ever to have apps that can help with this. But there's good news. If intervention is done at age 5, there's a 95% chance that a child can reach grade level and maintain that throughout their entire educational career. But if they are only receiving this help at age 9 or older, that ability drops down to 25%. I'd like to explain a little bit about how dyslexia works, just so you have some context. Normally, we look at this symbol and we think of the letter A. But in reality, in the English language at least, this encodes 3 separate sounds. It's A as in bay, ah as in father, and a as in bat. And dyslexia is a cognitive processing deficiency when translating between the symbolic representation and the phonetic sounds. So a child who's dyslexic may read this as a, or so it'd be bait, or an as in bot. So we've built this app in order to help reinforce the proper phonetic encoding. And I'm going to hand it off to Cade to discuss the science on that a little bit more.
Hello. So as Damien mentioned, dyslexia is a language processing deficit that affects speech, reading, and writing. So it's not only visual. Additionally, research shows that individuals with dyslexia need about 10 times more repetition in order to acquire a new language skill. And they also have to reach a much higher level of mastery before proceeding on to the next step in language processing. And so with that, we took 100 phonics based lessons and paired that with a live speech recognition model to give a tight feedback loop between what the student is saying and what the model perceives it, so that it would catch those differences between saying a and ah. And I'll give it to Joe for a demonstration.
How are you doing? I'm just going to give you a small slice of what we've built. The scope of this is so deep and complex that it's not possible to demonstrate in such a short amount of time what we've actually done. So no, it's not paused. It's not going to work. That's not going to work. I know. There you go.
The air comes out. Nice job. You said it. Listen for that sound at the start of it.
Aside from the echoing there that's going on with our sound glitch, you can see that it's a repetitive reinforcement learning system. Dyslexic kids need a repeated pounding of rewiring of their brains to see a sound, and instead of recognize that sound as a letter or a letter name, that we want them to recognize it as a sound. So this is the repetitiveness may seem simple to most of us because we all know how to read, and for the most part, we've all been through, we don't know how we learned how to read. So that's the way to, we believe, to rewire the kids' brains to actually recognize reading and to immediately realize that, as opposed to teaching them the name of a letter and then the sound of a letter and then another sound of a letter and another sound of a letter. So that's where we're at with the logic so far. In the background of that, the app is tracking the students' progress. It's going to track a percentage of how accurate they are and how many times they've missed a certain letter and how many times they've missed a certain sound. As those compound on each other and they build these different sound combinations, the sound combinations exponentially build their understanding of different words and ability to put words together. So that's where we're at with the build so far. And we are in the process of training models and working on things to work on the child's voice recognition. No models to this day that we know of are trained on children's voices. So that's the next steps in the process. And I'll give Cien to talk about our research.
Sorry. So while my team has been building the actual product, I've been doing go-to-market. For this, I built a landing page as well as a CRM tool for me to figure out who I should be contacting. So I ended up contacting a lot of the clinics in the Austin area to talk with specialists to ensure that we're building the right product for children. From my research, they have mentioned that there are a lot of products out there. However, not a lot of them have phonics, which is what they use to help teach children how to read. With this, we took it and based it on our lesson plans and made Ember. For the future, we're going to include games into the lessons. So once they finish word lessons, they can use those words to then play games, which will help them increase their learning ability. So that is Ember. If you are interested, you can sign up on the wait list at readwithember.com. Thank you.
So we'll take one or two questions, but first, something that we didn't demo live today, and I think it's kind of the crux of what you guys have built, is sort of like the audio to audio like model recognition. So like if I make the ah sound, I want to know how precisely that sound is against like the target sound for what you're doing. So you can have sort of the efficiency of a one-to-one tutor, but through the lens of AI, and that itself is scalable. So I know you both were building that. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we have the goal of basically fine-tuning models to be able to recognize the quality of the phonetic pronunciation that a child has. So in real time, a tutor will generally say, okay, like you've just said the word bat as bot or bay or bait. Actually, it is at, and reinforce that, and then have the child repeat it back to them. So in the fully fledged version of the app, it will do that feedback in real time and basically prompt them if they mispronounce something or misread something to repeat it and get that reinforcement on what the proper pronunciation is with feedback like a tutor would provide. Okay, cool. Yeah. So the question was, what hardware would be required to run the models? I think at the moment we need something more powerful, at least like iPad level. A lot of the language recognition models need some more processing power than something like a phone could provide at the moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a feature that we had in our backlog of basically playing videos of somebody actually saying the sound with, together with the words and also together with blending. So doing the phonetic sounds and then the blending of the sounds into an actual word. And there's actually some good research on that. They're called like wall words, I believe, or wall sounds. But we just didn't get to that at that point. So that is something that we will eventually incorporate into the application. I think that there is some potential for using this for pronunciation in other languages and potentially dyslexia in other languages. But I think English is the language that has the most research at the moment. So that would probably be where we start, and then use the learnings from that to go into some of the other languages. Because I think, like I was looking into it, and Chinese has dyslexia as well, but it's very different from the way that it presents in more Latin-based languages. All right, I think that's all the time we have for questions. So thank you very much.
All right. To reiterate some of the messaging from the beginning, if you're watching online or if you're interested in person, go to gauntletai.com. The next cohort starts in
a matter of hours. The next cohort starts on Monday, April 27th. So if you're interested and you have some free time, a lot of free time, please consider applying. Otherwise, the following cohort starts on July 7th. Correct. So you've got some time before that one, but ultimately, please, if you're watching online and think we're interesting, give us a look, check it out, see if the program looks like it could be right for you, and click apply. It's a pretty quick process, and then hopefully I'll see you pop up in my admin portal. Should we talk about what's next here?
We should.
Let's do it.
All right.
Up next, we're going to do a quick industry spotlight with our very own COO, Brett Johnson, and a hiring partner to talk about a bit more about how Gauntlet works.
Not just a hiring partner. Patrick is everyone who comes through Gauntlet.
Not just a hiring partner.
Patrick,
what do you mean?
Dude, Patrick, and I'm going to let him tell you more about himself, but Patrick literally still works like 100-hour weeks plus. So Patrick is the general manager, meaning like he holistically runs the Super Builders development shop in Austin. Super Builders is the technology arm of Alpha School. Alpha School is the learning platform that powers Texas Sports Academy and a bunch of other nationally very rapidly growing schools, both online and in person. Brett, one of the C-suite people at Gauntlet, he's one of the core reasons that Gauntlet has grown the way it has. So him and Patrick are a pretty dynamic duo. And Super Builders is one of the biggest hiring partners from Gauntlet. So let's introduce Brett Johnson and Patrick Skinner. Where do we go? Yeah, where do we go? Can you see these in here? Which way? Want to just sit on the ground, guys? You good? Yeah. Yeah.
Preparing with the folks.
Amazing.
Drew, where's your mic? I got one.
A little bit more.
Thank you. Sir.
Sure. There we go. Good to go. Ah, yeah. There you go.
Cool.
Mic test.
Mic test.
All right,
1, 2.
we're good.
Cool.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, so Patrick, thank you so much for joining me, all the folks we have here, and then everybody watching online here today. Let me start with maybe a basic and obvious question. If you're looking to hire engineering talent, why don't you just post a software engineering job online?
Well, not to say that I haven't tried that. That's number one. There's a very particular, or several particular things that we're really looking for when it comes to hiring for super builders. So a little bit of context too when it comes to like super builders. You know, I consider us one of the best ed tech teams in the world, and 100% of the of super builders are all Gauntlet grads, which currently we're at actually, you know, plus roughly about 7 new hires from the current graduating cohort. We're now at 78 total super builders. Now, when it comes to like exactly, you know, what we look for, a lot of times, you know, the filtering system when it comes to the hiring pipeline, let's just like use anything like Indeed.com or any type of typical hiring filtering system. The first thing they do is like credentials. Right? They're looking at credentials. They're looking at like work history. They're looking at these different things, and these are just your general filters. Gauntlet does something that's, you know, extremely unique in the sense that you could be talking to somebody that has 10, 20 years of experience in the tech industry, or you could be talking to somebody that's got 6 months. And so, you know, a couple things that I really align with is that I hire based off of 3 major criteria. Number one is like mission alignment. Are you like really bought into our mission? Our mission is, you know, accelerating education for 1 billion kids around the world. And so like, how well does that mission resonate with you? That's number one. Number two is just like agency. You can have all the work history in the world. You can have, you know, great university credentials, things like that. Does not mean that you're the most agentic person out there. I look for somebody that isn't just going to be punching tickets. I don't want somebody that is just has mastered the ability of just knocking out tasks. I'm looking for somebody that has genuine agency and can orchestrate like a multitude of agents, and on top of that, be able to, you know, really be able to think for themselves, and like very much. And you know, we all talk about like founder mode and things like that, but you need to be able to make critical decisions on your own, especially when you're like managing, you know, orchestrating, you know, agents. And the last thing is like the technical ability. Technical ability is being like deeply redefined right now. Whereas, you know, I could have a conversation with a 20-year engineer and we could argue about the differences in like Vite versus Next.js or whatever. But that almost doesn't mean very much anymore. You know, what we should be talking about is like, instead of just like software engineering, we should be talking about product engineering. We should be talking about go-to-market engineering. We should be talking about how to, you know, engineer distribution. And so the, you know, what it means to be technical now is very rapidly being redefined.
Test. Better?
Yeah.
Patrick, just to maybe push back a little bit, you can't find that on Indeed or any job board?
I can do that, but I can't have the same experience in filtering and also have like a little bit of not necessarily say, but having a little bit in part of like what's being taught and what are they learning and and being able to talk to Gauntlet staff and seeing who is really aligned with my exact mission, getting to actually send them specific projects and seeing physically what they do with those projects and everything, getting to be part of conversations, getting to know them and things like that, being inside of the building. It's a completely different experience, and which is probably the most interesting thing too is like I can sit there and do job posting, I can hire third party recruiters and things like that, and for what it costs me to hire like a third party recruiter, I'm getting significantly more as well as like more touch points when I'm working with Gauntlet. So, but the biggest thing is like, I don't want to recruit because at the end of the day, a recruiter is just another, it's another filtering system, and I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for humans. One of the biggest things that comes with AI, a lot of people say, oh, AI is taking the human out of the work. But in reality, AI is giving us the opportunity to be more human. So that's one of the biggest elements of like hiring from Gauntlet is that I get to actually have that human interaction and see who are those people that are genuinely driven by our mission, and then from there I can just simply test for agency.
Got it. And I think one of the things that makes you unique for us, Patrick, is not only are you a hiring partner, but you also participated as a student. So it might be helpful, just to give some context and some perspective. What did the hiring partner program look like when you participated in Cohort 2 almost a year ago now? And what does it look like on the other side in terms of, resources that we've made available to your team, like the hiring partner portal, the questionnaire, some of the filtering capabilities? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, I definitely lean on the idea that acolytes don't mean shit today. I want to see agency. I want to see you doing really hard stuff. That's what I want to see. I don't come from a traditional engineering background. I'm self-taught. If I really go back into my history, I have a military background. And, I spent years as a special operations combat medic, and then after that, doing contracting and everything. I decided, if I want to have a family, I needed to, I ended up Googling what's the safest thing I can do and still make good money. Sure enough, software engineering was way up there. Decided to become a self-trained, self-taught software engineer, and that was hard. I still remember what it was like to be an engineer with no degree in computer science trying to get a job, and that took forever. I still remember I just had to continue to get better and better. What my accolade was eventually was I just kept winning hackathons. Like people still weren't even giving me opportunities until they're like, okay, there's something about this guy because he just keeps beating all the other people in hackathons, whether they're from Stanford or not. And so finally I was given that opportunity, and it took me years to finally get that first opportunity as a software engineer. And so I know what it was like, and it's so nice to also be that person that gives those other people opportunities as well that aren't getting the same opportunity in filtering systems like Indeed.com and stuff like that. So when it came to me, I was really afraid I was going to just end up in that same crux where all these hiring partners are going to look at my resume and they're going to think, well, he's got some work history as an engineer, but he doesn't have a degree or anything. And that was actually almost opposite from what actually happened. Number one, and this is a great takeaway for people that are going to be, future challengers. I just told myself that I was going to outwork every single person in the cohort, and that's exactly what I attempted to do. And I would say I was probably top 3, top 5 of like people that got like the most offers, and without a degree or anything like that, just crazy agency. And so that's one of the things that I felt like Gauntlet really did for me was it gave me an opportunity, whereas every single structured platform would have never given me that opportunity. And so that's kind of like why I'm so not just grateful, but also like very bullish on anybody that goes through Gauntlet, because there's a high level of agency in that is required just to even apply and then go through the program.
Got it. And thinking about your time as a hiring partner now, I know that you've spent a considerable amount of time here at HQ getting to meet the challengers. But when it comes to things like our admin portal, like the insights into the projects that the challengers work on week over week, how helpful is that to assess someone's ability really before you go ahead and dedicate 30 minutes or however long to an interview?
If I'm looking for something hyper specific, because I mean, there's a lot going on in super builders, and there's we have demands for people that have a ton of experience with AWS. We have demands for people that are maybe have some, fresh experience in developer relations or something like that. So that's great for the roles in which might be a little bit more specified than your typical super builder. It's also great to be able to assess like existing projects and be able to see, see how they, went about developing them. I think the biggest, most important portion to me is how well do you present, And so there's like a lot. Every single project has like a video presentation of the project itself, and communication and how you communicate your project, I think it is significantly more important now than ever before. So just to like lean into that a little bit more, it's no joke when people like Andre Karpathy talks about. I think it's literally it's his pinned tweet right now is English is the most important coding language right now, and it's true because at this point, I joke because I see a bunch of super builders. We have like this big open office area. It's not, some people are upstairs doing kind of the same thing, and they're like whispering to their laptop because they're doing their prompt, and you look ridiculous. But it's true. Like it's as ridiculous as you look. It's prompting faster, and the AI is getting significantly better every single day in understanding human communication. And so you yourself need to be better at how you communicate what you want, both on a technical and a non-technical level. And so those videos, I watch almost every single one of them because how you communicate is significantly more important than what you actually build.
Got it. And I guess maybe just to take a big step back here and provide some folks a little bit more context on how the cohort structure is, particularly with hiring partners. So essentially, each cohort starts with a 3-week remote phase. During that remote phase, all of the challengers are assessed mostly on their technical ability, but we'll also incorporate some soft skills assessments. The folks that, I guess, survive the first 3 weeks are invited down to Austin, where week 4 is when our platinum partners, so partners that have committed to 10 plus hires, gain access to the roster and are able to start their interview process. We also have a hiring partner event day that week, and that's really a good step towards getting an opportunity to take, a cohort of say 100 individuals and start to whittle it down to maybe the 20 that are a good fit for your organization in your case. Week 5, we have our gold partners, 5+ credits. Week 6, we have our silver partners, 3+ credits. And essentially what we're trying to do is enable each company to run their interview process within the context of the training program itself. So I guess from your perspective, how accessible are the challengers? How easy is it to work with whether the Gauntlet team or really the Gauntlet team on identifying who's the right fit for super builders?
From the partner aspect of like access, I mean, as a platinum partner, I feel like I just need to call ahead and be like, hey, I'm showing up and I'm going to talk to some individuals that maybe they did one of the partner projects and I want to talk more about the project, talk more about what their interest is, and do additional interviews, things like that. I feel like I kind of have like this open door policy for myself, but obviously, calling ahead and just letting people know. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very accessible for us, and I have the free ability to just walk the floor and look over at people's screens and talk about what they're working on, talk about pretty much anything. And there's been several times in this cohort where I've been all the way to like midnight, 1 or even 2 a.m. just talking to cohort members as they're working on their projects. So access is probably not necessarily a limitation when it comes to being a partner.
Sure. And I guess as you've seen the program continue to grow and expand, I guess can sometimes feel a little bit more competitive than it has previously. But do you still feel like Gauntlet is bringing the right individuals through the program as challengers for super builders to meet their hiring goals?
Yes. Yeah. We've put out many offers and everything, and I think I'm pretty sure many of the cohort members here can also reflect vouch for this. I don't do a lot of interviews. I'm one of the things I still remember I won't say what company it was, but I did 9 interviews one time for a role. And I think it was over like a 2-month period. And I'm just like, this is the most grueling and like ridiculous thing ever. And I feel like it is just completely like, and this is, mind you, this is like while AI is like started to become like a bigger thing. And I'm sitting here going through this process and I'm just like, there has been like 2 model releases since I started this whole interview process. And like I have now updated my engineering process twice since like this whole process has even began. And so I've for people that I'm just extremely sure on, you probably got 1 interview with me. And if people that I just want a sanity check, you got 1 interview with me and like and maybe one of my team members. And so you might max do 3 interviews with us, but I keep it as short and sweet as possible because I mean Gauntlet has definitely taken care of a lot of the process of like, do they have high agency? What do their projects look like, and things like that, and having a general background and understanding of who they are. So it does allow me to like really bypass all the necessary like one day like 8 or 9 interviews or whatever that some companies do, and I prefer to keep it have a really great like gut check and vibe check and decide, okay, I feel like this person's a good fit within 1 or 2 interviews.
Yeah, I mean, making a hiring decision, especially on someone $200,000 a year, that's a lot of money. After 1, maybe 2 interviews, that's crazy. But I think it kind of speaks to the level of trust that you've placed in our team to do that upfront vetting. So, I mean, you've mentioned agency a lot. I don't know if we've touched on the cognitive assessment piece at all, but I guess how important is that for your team in particular in making decisions?
For like doing our cognitive assessments and stuff. Yeah. So I mean that is really important to us. We for context, you take a CCAT and getting into Gauntlet, and then one of the final things we do into getting into super builders is you take a PC cat, which is just a proctored version of that CCAT. And that is just like it's a very definitive like final check for us. I mean we do we have a lot of data that shows that certain levels of cognitive scores also reflect when it comes to or coincide with like levels of agency and genuine ability to be able to adapt new skills. So something I talk about a lot is one of the most important skills that you could have today is not the engineering skills. It's not like communication skills. It's the ability to develop new skills and offload old skills. And so like the PC cat definitely like does a pretty good job of like measuring, your ability to do that. And so that is a very important component for us.
And one thing that I think can sometimes get lost on the folks internal to Gauntlet or folks like yourself that have spend so much time with us is the grit aspect of it. And the fact that this is an 80 to 100 hour a week training program, it's no joke. And it's really designed for people to push themselves to the limits. Like that's not something that can be taken for granted. I guess, how does that translate into the types of individuals that you hire and maybe their desire to, not work over weekends all the time, but like go the extra mile and like be
No,
intellectually
work the extra week every
Yeah.
weekend. No, do that. No breaks. No, like absolutely. Okay, this is how I put it. When you're a Gauntlet, you don't have to worry about anything. Your rent is paid for. Your laundry is done for you. Food and everything is taken care of for you. You have basically found yourself in this perfect scenario for when you're on site. So for 7 weeks, you are in a completely unfettered point in which everything, all your cognitive load of all other things that you could even think about are completely taken care of. You could just sit down and focus. I don't think like I think that like a lot of people do really like lean into that and they put a lot of effort. I think you should go to the full max, 210%, give everything you got, because there's never going to be another opportunity in life where you are completely separated from all of your daily requirements of preparing your food, doing your laundry, caring for your home, paying for your home, things like that. You don't have to worry about any of that. And trust me, when you go through Gauntlet and then you graduate, I give it 2 weeks and then you're like, shit, I just want to go back to Gauntlet. Like I'm serious. Like like you guys still haven't even gotten rid of me. I'm just like, I just became a manager just so I can just like physically be here. Because you could just sit here and not have to worry about anything and grind your face off. And if you genuinely care about like becoming a top level engineer and like being part of like, let's be real. What's happening right now is absolutely historical. And we all have an opportunity to be part of that. Like everything that's going on. I mean, we're talking about like trying to become multiplanetary, and we're talking about every car being electric, and we're talking about all of these crazy things going on. AI, AGI, all this stuff is going on. And you have the perfect opportunity right now in Gauntlet to somehow, even if it's a small part, to be part of that. And to do it in a moment in which you are completely undeterred by the typical things that you typically have to worry about in life. There's no other better opportunity than that. So yes, when people you say like, work your weekends, not every weekend. No, work every damn weekend. I'm serious. Like work every weekend because you'll never get this opportunity back. Grind your face off. Do the hard shit. Like when people present, oh yeah, should I do this project? 99% of the time I said it's not hard enough. I'm serious. Do the hard thing, because no other opportunity. You will never have another opportunity to just work from 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. and maybe get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and do it all over again the next day. You'll never have that opportunity ever again. So do it while you're here.
I guess just point of clarification was talking about working weekends once you make it to the other side, but that's okay.
Oh,
if that's
my
how
bad.
Super Builders rocks,
Sorry.
like no,
I got my
kidding.
soapbox for a second.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I saw the energy come out. Random question. Why in the world would anybody consider a master's degree program in computer science over this?
Why would you?
Yeah.
I can't think of one. Because let's be okay. All right. Let's just talk about like just university as a whole. I can't imagine choosing a degree as a freshman and then expecting that the degree is going to be worth anything in a 4-year period. Life changes right now in the matter of a couple months. Like everything is changing within like, let's say, let's be generous, like 6 months period. What we were doing 6 months ago is completely different on the as far as engineering goes. compared to today. Let's just go back in history a little bit. GPT-3 came out in 2022. Like, that was 4 years ago. So can you imagine that? Like, being a freshman, you just signed up for university, and GPT-3, not ChatGPT, just GPT-3, like, just released 2022. And then this year, you're graduating. Think of like how much has changed in that period alone. Now, let's factor that in the sense of exponentials. Let's start a degree now. Right now, what do you think all of this is going to look like by 2030? I can't even imagine. No, I'm not touching a CS degree. I mean, it might still be fairly relevant, but at the end of the day, like how long it takes, universities to be able to refresh, curriculum. I can't imagine that the information I'm learning that day is even relevant to that day. It's probably already dated by 1 or 2 years.
Do you ever think that colleges eventually try to adopt the model around charging companies for talent, or do you think that they're too stuck in their ways?
I think what typically happens in this situation is they're going to have to if they want to survive. And so eventually, yes, you're going to see universities have to like completely evolve into something else in order to even survive the accelerative education that is going to be required going forward from now. Because like 4 years is just simply too long to gain mastery, quote unquote, in any other subject. And so, yeah, it's more of an adapt or die situation. And I mean, are they going to adapt? I'm sure, statistically speaking, there's already reports showing that roughly about 30 or 40% of the existing universities won't exist in the next 5 years. So I genuinely believe that most of them probably won't meet the needs of the change, but some will figure it out.
So thinking about companies out there that might be evaluating Gauntlet, might be thinking about becoming hiring partners, I guess we'll cut the other way with this one. Why shouldn't someone partner with Gauntlet? I think things top of mind for me are companies and organizations that will start with, hey, we're looking for 10 years of this specific coding language experience. We're looking for, just this, 2016 resume evaluation style. Those are the ones that are top of mind for me, but curious to hear your thoughts.
As a hiring partner, especially if your company is more than like 2 or 3 years old, do not become a hiring partner if you don't intend to disrupt the entire structure of your existing company. Because that's exactly what a Gauntlet graduate would do. A Gauntlet champion, in my intention, if you drop them in any type of company, in order for them to perform at the highest level, you're going to completely have to completely erode all of the typical SOPs that you would typically have for your average engineer. You need to give them unfettered access to being able to do and disrupt every single thing. We talk about like the whole Elon algorithm. If anybody knows, how what the Elon algorithm is. But one of the biggest things that you start off with, and I make sure that all of my engineers on my team do, is always question the process. Question why that process exists or why that SOP exists, and then try to remove every single bit of process that you can. And if you're not, replacing at least 10% of those processes back into the algorithm, then at that point, then you're probably not ripping out enough. And then after that, just optimize and then automate. And if you're a company that's like, oh no, you have to follow these SOPs, you don't want a super builder, because you'll drive each other crazy. The super builder, sorry, not a super builder, but the Gauntlet grad. My bad. And but a Gauntlet grad will very much, in order for them to be very successful in your organization, you need to give them unfettered access to be able to build things and build things fast and question all of the standards.
Got it. So, not entirely sure how much time we have left up here, but do you mind if we open it up to Q&A?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Anybody in the audience have any questions about hiring from the program, some of the learnings that Patrick's had, or any of the folks online that want to bring up any questions?
I guess I was that boring.
So Patrick, you discussed not posting on job boards because of the whole hiring process. Have you found a company that is close to the equivalent of Gauntlet, essentially in training talent and finding new talent?
And you're talking like maybe like a boot camp or something like that, or yeah.
Essentially, how would a boot camp be different from Gauntlet?
So okay, some of the big things that happen with Gauntlet that that I think only have existed in a couple of different places, and I wouldn't say the ones I'm gonna the one that I'm gonna probably bring up isn't a boot camp or anything, but one of the big things is like being physically on site is like a massive unlock. The fact that I can like sit next to somebody, look at their screen, and be like, wait, hold on. Why are you using this agent that way? And then just like have a debate as to why one person is using Gemini 3.1 for this specific task versus, you know, whatever other agent they think might be better for that task. That doesn't happen in like this like remote boot camp atmosphere. And the fact that you have this ability to like synergistically learn from each other and learn together is a massive unlock. So the only other place that I'd say that I would I've probably not learned as fast from, but having the ability to learn within, you know, a physical ecosystem like that, it's probably Network School, Balaji Srinivasan's thing in Forest City, Malaysia. I spent a couple of months down there, and I'm still very, very close with the people. I was in the very first cohort. I'm very close with all my cohort 1 members, and those connections I find extremely valuable. But when it comes to like actually like job placement and things like that, and actual legitimate training when it comes to, you know, AI engineering, there's nothing that exists that's like that's like Gauntlet at all.
So it sounds like my options are Malaysia or Austin, Texas.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Like a remote island too. Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I guess just to touch on that point a little bit, I think that one of the key differences between Gauntlet and a more traditional boot camp is we're not a 0 to 1 training program. Ultimately, we're looking for folks that have existing skills that are looking to accelerate themselves. And then on the participant standpoint, I think it's a pretty unique opportunity, and all the challengers can attest. Staying in an apartment that's paid for by someone else for 7 weeks to worry about nothing besides learning and practicing and getting better at your craft, that's a unique opportunity. And I think that, you know, all of the incentives here are truly aligned. It's a high bar to get into the program. It's a high bar to complete the program. And ultimately, that's what our hiring partners are looking for. So I think organizations that are looking to add volume at the same clip that they did, you know, during the 0% interest rate days. Everyone remembers how fun that was. You know, there are other boot camps out there for them, but I think companies that really want to truly define how they're building software should consider Gauntlet.
I think a bear signal is if I can see the curriculum like 6 weeks or earlier from the start of the boot camp or whatever, it's probably not a good program. We actually don't even talk about the curriculum or anything in Gauntlet until you guys really start. And the reason why is because the shit changes fast. And we don't want to sit there and say, oh yeah, we'll teach you these things. But in reality, like AI changes so fast that we want to make sure that we're teaching whatever is literally the most cutting edge thing at this moment. You know, Carpathia Auto research wasn't even a thing until halfway through the Gauntlet, but we started talking about it with the Gauntlet members and stuff. So yeah, that's a big component too.
So Patrick, not to put you on the spot here, but how many days ago did Cloud Design come out?
Was that a week ago?
If that.
Yeah.
And my favorite part is that's already incorporated into the curriculum that starts next week.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know how to use it. I just set it up, and I had to walk over to Ash and be like, "Hey, I know you're using design. Can you show me how to do that?" And that's the nice thing. It's like I'm physically here. I can walk over to somebody that I know is using the latest and greatest tool and say, "Hey, show me how you did that," so that I can like replicate it or write a doc and share it with the rest of the team.
And remind me, but when you went through cohort 2, I think Claude Code had just become a thing. Is that right?
We just got 3.7 to 4. Like we started off at 3.7 and then we got 4. So yeah, like it was a slightly better version than like what cohort 1 had, which was 3.5. And then Grok 2 came out like halfway through it. And then BMAD, the BMAD method, which we still talk about quite a bit, was just released halfway through our cohort.
And I guess when you have time to hang out here and then you start to hear the rest of the general public start to talk about some of these concepts, what do you think the lead time is in terms of, whether it be swarm techniques or what have you? How soon do you think Gauntlet picks up on it versus the rest of the world? I've seen like 3 to 6 months, but you tell me.
Oh, it's almost same day. That's like the coolest thing about being physically here and like, hey, this just released, and you're like all gathering around, you're reading the docs and trying to like set things up. When Grok 2 released, we watched the live stream, and then me and Ash went over to the corner and live streamed me trying to set up Grok 2 to like do all these things. Literally like not even a full 5 minutes after the stream announcing Grok 2 had even ended. And so, and we were trying to like set that up and everything and try to show the rest of the cohort, like, okay, these are the things that you need to do to get the most out of like a super heavy and things like that. That was like as a release part of that.
Yep. All right. I think we have time for one more question, if we have one.
So yeah, I'm coming at this with like an atypical background as well. I don't have as much software engineering experience as probably most other people in the cohort. Did that feel like a significant disadvantage to you when you were going through the program? Or was it just like you worked through it and it didn't even matter?
There's a yes and a no in there, whereas like if you were an engineer that spent a lot of time experimenting with like many tools, you're definitely kind of like ahead of the curve, just understanding maybe like the overall engineering ecosystem a little bit better. But at the same time, you're not stuck in your ways. You could try new things and almost like invent new processes and things like that. Because again, you have to remember that the new coding language is the English language, and so you're willing to try a lot of things, whereas a typical engineer with 5+ years of experience, they're going to start whatever engineering processes the same way that they've always started. And so there's a bit of an unblock on there, but there's also like a bit of a learning curve where you just have to kind of learn very, very fast some of the typical process. So like for me, I would say like I kind of have a slight advantage in some cases where I just know really, really great React design libraries. I just know that offhand because that's what I used a lot. But then, somebody that's like brand spanking new might end up like trying some brand new MCP server that I just never even thought to try because it just like maybe the announcement was weak and I just didn't think much of it. And next thing you know, their designs are significantly better than mine because I've been, whereas the libraries have been very useful to me, they've completely jumped that hurdle because I kind of fell back on one of my old ways. So I think the one thing is like, yeah, you're definitely blocked in the sense that you don't come in with a lot of like preordained information that you've just developed over time. But then you're also completely unblocked in the fact that you're just willing to try anything and everything.
Cool. Patrick, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always, and we look forward to you participating again in cohort 5, again in cohort 6, again in cohort 60. So thank you
That's
so
when
much.
when my son is in it. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone.
How's everybody doing? Hanging in there? I love it. Well, we have a few more presentations and another talk, and then we will be out of here around 7 p.m. More.
What's up, Gauntlet? Happy Showcase Day. Super excited to be here, especially following those clear-minded insights from Patrick. We're building pro athlete level injury prevention and putting it where it matters the most. We're bringing it to your kids' sports teams, to your fitness classes, even just your living room. Pro athletes today have access to 12 camera rigs, a team of biomechanics experts, and detailed reports that explain exactly where their muscles are breaking down, why, and how to prevent injury. So bringing her experience from professional indoor soccer is my teammate and homie, Kelsey, who understands the importance of keeping your body healthy.
Real quick, how many of you guys can touch like your thumb to your wrist like this? If you can, oops, sorry. If you can, you're likely hypermobile. Some of you might know it as double jointed. And what hypermobility is, it basically means that your joints go beyond the normal range of motion. And when that happens, your tendons and your ligaments often take the brunt of the load while your muscles are underactivating under the hood. This can lead to chronic pain. With or without hypermobility, a lot of us are suffering through chronic pain or at least know somebody who is. And in our current healthcare system, it's hard to get the help that we need, let alone prevent it. And that's why we made Bioluminal. We sense problems, we tell you exactly where it's happening, we tell you why, and we tell you how to prevent it. Rajiv is going to explain it more in depth in a second. He's a published mathematician who studied at Yale, and he has a passion for this project.
Definitely passionate about the project because we're combining computer vision that tracks joint movement to track form with muscle sensor data that makes sure your target muscle is activating along with your stabilizer muscles in a way that no one's doing. Sense. We're operating at the cutting edge of ML in a multimodal reasoning engine, and we're the first to actually close the loop of coaching to make sure that we're tactilely cueing the user the way an expert practitioner would. At the moment, we're using vibration sensors, and we're integrating pressure-based sensors the way that an elite trainer would cue her patients or clients. And of course, we finalize that loop in with verification that, oh, there I am, that makes sure that the client is actually taking to those cues, and we sense those verifications. So up next, I'd hand the mic over to our resident ML published researcher, Aaron, who knows a thing or two about that cutting ML that I mentioned.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. Well, physical therapists, they'll have you do 10 reps and spot that one error. Bioluminal will be there watching you for every rep, every set, every day. And it will never get angry when you skip leg day. So we've had many challenges over the past 2 weeks. We've had to thread the narrative of finding every significant detail of our target audience and how we would be able to pull that information together and formulate an individual, unique data story for each exercise that we've implemented into this app and for each one that comes after. However, we've developed a fairly significant system. It's adaptive, simple, stays on your phone, complex on our server. There's a lot more to it than goes into than that. But let's... no. Some of our more important models that we implement here. First one is Skell on my right. It's the dream for any anatomist. It looks and identifies different muscle groups, which ones are compensating and why. On my left is Sapiens. It identifies asymmetries by tracking load transmission wherever we want to identify it. Usually we would prefer to specify that specific muscle group. Moving into the future, we're going to be conducting further R&D. Primarily, we're going to be designing and building and training a Siamese network, enabling feedback that qualifies the actual use of a user for each exercise. We also plan on training a GNN tracking the gain traveling across the connected muscle groups. And right here, we have an example of a gain neural network. Now I'm going to pass it off to my friend, Rajut, who is all the way from Purdue and is our hardware master.
Thanks, Aaron. It's Rajat, by the way. What you're seeing hooked up to me is our first prototype of our bioluminal garment. And what that is exactly is it's an EMG sensor that can detect my muscle activity. It connects to this microcontroller that can connect to our app, which has computer vision. And the computer vision detects our form, detects my form, and the muscle, the EMG sensor detects my muscle activity, and it's all communicated via Bluetooth. Let me do a few bicep reps where you can see this in action. Oh, there it is. So as I curl, you'll see. Wait, you messed up. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, I'll just explain it. So right now the CV is detecting. Oh, there we go. There's a. All right, there we go. So the Bluetooth connection was kind of weak. All right. As I do these reps, the model is detecting the form and the muscle waves. All right, I just felt a cue, so that's working. And I'm fatiguing because I've been doing these reps all day, practicing our demo. As I finish the set, a debrief will appear. And well, you wouldn't be hooked up to a breadboard during your gym session, right? Our vision for this is a compression shirt that will have these sensors hooked up, and it will cue you, and we'll be able to connect to the app, and it will be your personal coach in the gym. And Kelsey will talk about our app.
Okay, so this is what we believe our app brings to the table. We're going to tell you how many reps you do, how good your form is, the quality of your form, muscle activity that goes with it, any compensation patterns that you might have. Apparently, Rajat's pretty good at this because he didn't have any. For the bicep specifically, will detect like if your shoulders are too high, you want to relax and actually engage your muscles. Or if you're like leaning too far forward, you're not engaging that bicep muscle. So those are a couple examples we have here. And then we tell you exactly which reps. And again, Rajat's perfect, so we don't have any cues there. But it eventually all will go into a report, and that report we're going to use to predict injuries before they happen. And I think the crazy thing is, we built this in a week. And honestly, there should be more apps out there like this because of the tight timeline that we had and what we were able to accomplish. Our current bottleneck is manufacturing and time. Our sensor costs $40. The markets cost $10,000. Our app is free to use inherently with the computer vision. Other apps are behind a paywall for the most part. This tech exists, and Bioluminal wants to democratize it for you. That's it.
Real quick, just wanted to shout out our expert consultant team, Lawson Harris with 40 years of practitioner experience, and Milan Rach with AI, business strategy, and healthcare. So I'll open up the floor to questions. Yeah.
Great job, guys, by the way. I've seen a lot of this type of technology being talked about from the defense tech space. Andrew releasing something similar with exoskeletons for trigger censoring to enhance the time in which you actually have the latency of shooting people. Have you guys looked at applications outside of the health and fitness space on the cybernetics or human enhancement level type of applications?
Yeah, I can answer that. That's actually a really interesting question, because what we're kind of trying to do is measure what you're not doing in a way. And while that space is really cool and like supplemental, the scope that we're targeting right now is we're targeting what's not there in a way. So it's kind of hard to integrate the two, although I think that would be an interesting idea if there would be a way to like, I think we thought about like using a TENS type machine with it. So like sometimes people just don't, when they don't know what they're activating, they can't activate it, and being able to stimulate that. So that could be an application in that space, but those are the few options we've gone over.
If you're interested in other niche user profiles, we're considering targeting folks like gardeners who, have continuous muscle strains that would benefit from our injury prevention methodology. Yeah, question.
Have you guys also experimented with, like, I know there's TENS and NMES, like neuromuscular electrical stim. Would that help at all for the same applications? Or is it kind of hard to bifurcate the EMG signal between the neuromuscular signals?
In relation to
I mean, frankly, we haven't fully explored that space. We think that surface EMGs, along with computer vision, maybe you can explain how we think that we basically cover the space of movement.
I wanted to go into some of these details before, and that would be able to explain some stuff, but I have a tendency for being long-winded, so it's either an hour or 1 minute. I'd love to continue talking this to you further. We've done just a little bit of research into those areas, but with the compressed time, I won't be able to explain it to you in a concise, articulate manner. But there is some potential inroads, but we don't have anything specific in that line yet. Off the top of my head, for example, as it relates a little bit more towards your question, is that if something was more of like an exoskeleton, that would be a lot easier to do. And really, it just depends on what kind of input data is allowed to infer or refine and combine with others to create another inference, which can be combined with other data to make more inference data. Because just like that one little muscle signal that we have a loop, that actually gets us 5 different modes of information. It's just math. And so almost assuredly that there is an inroad there.
A sneak preview into the hour-long explanation. Any other questions?
Yeah, phenomenal project. Could you talk about maybe the injury prevention side and how the queuing and the EMG kind of goes with that?
So in terms of like the injury prevention, what the EMG sensors do, it sees your muscle fatiguing, and the whole science behind it is that it will detect the fatigue before your form breaks down, and then you'll get the cue to activate it, so that way it will help you prevent your injury. Without like EMG sensors, you might see good form in the mirror, and but then you might shift your loads to tendons that would cause the injury. But with the EMG sensors, you can see that fatiguing in real time, and the cue will help you correct your form and activate the target muscle.
I like to think about it in terms of rep count and rep quality. Rep quality comes with our form checking across the CV, and then the EMGs help you tune rep count, so you don't leave reps in reserve if you don't rep enough, which you're underperforming. That sucks. We're perfectionists here. And if you rep too hard, you're probably using your tendons, as Kelsey mentioned, and that's a problem too. We sense when you're fatiguing.
They forgot to mention that they calibrated it to any individual in about 30 minutes. I was very impressed.
Thank you.
All righty, team. Up next, thank you, Team Bioluminal. Up next, we have, please give a warm welcome to Team Stack Attack. Excellent name.
Okay, my friend, it won't be driven.
How many of you have ever shipped something on Friday and spent weekend hoping that it would still be up on Monday morning? Think of the first week of Gauntlet. Yeah, that feeling, whether my architecture holds, feeling is what this project is about. We are Megha, Norman, and RJ, the Google boys, and the smart one. We built a tower defense game, Stack Attack. Before I tell you how it works, I want to tell you why we built it. In 2013, a website was launched. They spent $2 billion and expected 50,000 concurrent users. Guess what? On day one, in first few hours, 250,000 users showed up. How many do you think successfully signed up in the first few hours? Lower? Lower? Any other guess? The answer is 6. 6 people in the first few hours. And yes, the website was not a dinner reservation one. It was a healthcare website. And here's the thing. The code wasn't broken. The server was not hacked. The website failed. The reason is just one design decision. They forced every user to go through a narrow straw. One clog at the bottom, and nobody at the top could move. And that's the weird thing about the system design. You can read as many books as you want. You can draw as many diagrams and say, use a cache, use the database, shard the database. But when the real user hits your stack, it will still go wrong. Because the hard part is not the problem, patterns. It's knowing when to use them and trade-off. Trade-offs you're making. And that only comes from watching or playing something break. So instead of another tutorial, we built a game. Traffic is the enemy. Cache, load balancers, database, they are the towers. Every decision you make costs money, and every wave wants to kill your SLA. You don't study architecture, you defend it. So who's this for? If you have no idea about a system design, then there is a game mode. You can learn the building blocks. If you want to deep dive into the system design, there is a sandbox mode. You build the system, you break the system, and watch it. And if you want to see your own system in the game, upload a Terraform file or a JSON config. And Stack Attack renders your real architecture as a tower defense game. Your infra, your checkpoint, and your towers. Just play and learn. Norman is going to show how to play.
Oh, thanks. All right, so I'm just going to hop into the demo real quick here. So I'm going to show the 3 different modes that we have. So the first one here is campaign mode. So in campaign mode, you're basically trying to solve common architecture type problems. So URL shortener is a very common problem that you will get in a system interview, for example. This is essentially walking through how you would solve a problem like this, but not trying to solve it for 1 million users off of the bat, right? Because that's how normally architecture would progress in a real system. You would start with something simple and scale it when it makes sense, right? And it all becomes a trade-off. You don't want to build for 1 million users when you have 10. So here, connected a client to a server to a database. This is enough to handle, your first day of you build your thing and it's working, right? But this is going to run into problems down the line. So this first scenario has 4 different maps, or 4 different waves. Each wave is going to progressively get harder. So now to be able to deal with wave 2, we're going to introduce some caching before the server and after the server to reduce the workload on the database and reduce the front end calls to the server. And so run through this example real quick. You have the ability to toggle the speed so that you can see the little dollars flying really quickly and be happy that you're being rich. And if you guys notice there, some of the requests are making it back to the user. Some of them are getting cached out of the database, write requests, read requests. In this scenario, you start running into async issues, right? So to lessen the load on the server, you introduce a queue and a worker. Same thing, run it again. And so the interesting thing, and what makes it a really educational and fun experience, is even though here we're demonstrating the happy path, you can actually get away with running 15 different servers and maybe breaking the game. But we incorporated AI to tell you, okay, your architecture works, and congrats, you won the game. But if you did this in real life, it wouldn't work, right? So it still steers in that direction and teaches you about what best practices are, how you'd actually do this in a real life game, right? So that is the first mode. The second mode we have here is diagnose mode. So diagnose mode is, it drops you into a real life scenario, right? Celebrity posted on Instagram, a ton of people are looking at the post, they really have to handle that. Or Netflix just dropped Squid Games for the first time. What happened, right? These work more as a puzzle where you're given an existing architecture and you need to figure out what broke, what will break, what do I have to change to this to make it work, right? So for someone more experienced who wants to kind of play around and figure out what's going on, you can run this. In this case, you can select the post database and realize that, okay, the post database is dropping a bunch of requests. We need to fix this architecture to make it work. Our SLA broke. So restart and try again, right? And then the last mode is sandbox. Sandbox. So in sandbox mode, you have the ability to just create your own architecture from scratch, or as Mega mentioned, you can import your own Terraform file, which is containing your own architecture. You pull it in, you tweak around. I want this many requests. I want it, this is kind of like how my own architecture would want to live under load. You can click on the components and browse to see what's going on with each of them, and you get to experience or visualize what's wrong with your architecture. So yeah, that's the 3 modes that we have, and I'll pass it on to RJ.
So what was paramount is that teaching was at the end of the day, you learn about these concepts whether you're trying to or not. If you're a beginner, you come in learning concepts like caching and databases, and you get familiar with these concepts so that if you were to walk into a system design interview or you look at an AWS console for the first time, you're not lost. We made it a point not to call them power towers or shield towers. We made it a point to use the actual industry terms so that you develop that familiarity. And if you want to learn more down the line, you can reference that exact terminology head on without having to try to translate into industry jargon. So where would we go from here? First, it would be an AI guided curriculum. Right now, the AI tutor responds to questions, but the next step would be to have a structured language mode where the AI would walk you through building resilient, scalable systems concept by concept. It observes your architecture, identifies what you have learned already, and then designs the next challenge to meet you where you are. Think of it as a personalized system design tutor that adapts to your skills in real time. Next would be a build your own repo mode, where you point your stack attack to your actual GitHub repo, and it will analyze your code base, identify your services, your databases, and your API boundaries, and generates a topology that mirrors your real architecture. Then it runs traffic through it, showing you exactly where your system would break under load and guide you through the fixes. The same game, but now you're not building Bitly or Netflix, hypothetically, you're scaling your own app. So the URL is here. There's a system waiting for you, and it is about to get some heavy traffic. Let's see if you can defend your architecture. So stack attack is where infrastructure turns into intuition. Thank you very much.
Okay, if you want to buy Stack Attack game, then it is $250. But if you sign up today, end of day today, then you'll get for $200.
The price just keeps going up, so I would
Yeah,
sign
it's still
up now.
going up. If you wait, then it will go up.
It was $25 on Monday, 15.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. $35 for everyone, and for Gauntlet challenges, it was $25.
Okay.
But it's now $250.
All right. Any questions? So originally we were considering, like, should we make it like a full-fledged game? Use Godot, try to see where the boundaries of like MCPs are nowadays. We decided on something that was more portable. It's just all built on React using Pixie.js, so it's like very lightweight. Everything runs on the browser. I think if we were to develop it further and like make it like a full-fledged game, we'd have to translate it into an engine. There's a lot of limitations that we like kind of ran into. But yeah, I think that'd be a cool avenue. Yeah. Yes. So the question was, I don't know if people in the audience can hear. So going backwards, the first question was, did we think about posting it on Steam? And the second question was, did we think about making this as an extension of VS Code? Didn't occur to me for this particular application. I think that would be cool. I don't know that we would probably run into the same limitations. So if we were to flush this out as a fully developed app, I think going the game engine route would probably be the best idea. But yeah, it's a cool idea. I don't think we really considered that. Any other questions? Are we in time? Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thanks.
All righty. John, will you help me navigate here? How are y'all doing? Doing okay? Seeing some cool demos? Well, up next, I want to turn it over to our very
AI
own
is the greatest
CMO,
force multiplier
Mr. Josh.
for
Mr.
talent
Josh,
that there has ever been. I think it's a bigger force multiplier than the internet or
challenger at
industrialization or the steam engine or anything we've ever seen. Gauntlet is a super intensive training for the smartest people on the planet where we try to get them to the cutting edge of AI and then we match them with hiring partners.
Either you believe in the AI revolution or you don't. If you truly want to become elite, if you truly want to hone in on your AI skills, fully immersing yourself in the Gauntlet is the fastest and the best way to do so. It's the fastest because it's 10 weeks, 1,000 hours all in, and you get a job on the other side. And then it's the best because it's free. We cover everything, all expenses paid. All you have to do is focus, and if you focus, you can become an AI evangelist at a company.
Everybody gets a studio apartment, food, transportation, just anything to help create an atmosphere where our challengers can do their best work and work as hard as they can for the time they're with us.
When you're here and you are just siloed in and they are taking care of everything, it allows you to almost unlock a space of your brain that is always occupied by the to-do list. You're just absolutely locked in.
For me, it was like, I need to figure out a way to get really good with AI tools really quickly, and that requires a full-time commitment. If you have a job and you're sort of playing around with it around the edges, you have work to do. You don't have 12 hours a day to just be like, I'm only gonna do this and I'm only gonna learn how to use these tools.
I worked at a private company that contracted for government entities, so couldn't use AI for security reasons, and I didn't want to get left behind, so I joined Gauntlet.
It doesn't matter if you come in with Python knowledge, Java knowledge.
Patrick.
Just 1 second. We're about to get started here. We're waiting for one more.
Coding agent you're using, what databases you're familiar with. What we're trying to teach you is a framework for thinking. How do you architect an AI system? How do you go about using an AI coding agent? How do you tell and articulate to an AI coding agent the type of system you want to build or the tech stack you want to use?
I think challengers here for you. Everyone's gone through the program. They'll give some more color on who they are. And because AI speeds everything up, we are going to do this panel a little faster than the 40 minutes or so that we had scheduled. We're going to try to get it done in about 20. We have some good questions lined up, but why don't we start with some introductions, and then we can pass the mics around as we go along.
Hi, I'm Claudia. I was in Cohort 3 for Gauntlet. My background's a little bit of nursing, and then I got into software engineering through a hackathon in Colombia, and I've just loved it ever since.
My name is Nani. I was also in Cohort 3. My background is education. And what else did you say? Yeah, it's cool.
Hey, everybody. My name is Baines, and I was also a G3 challenger, and now I work as a AI software engineer.
You guys know who I am. Go ahead.
I'm Damien. I presented earlier. I'm a G4 challenger. Prior to this, I was the head of infrastructure at a video game company. I've had a lot of experience in infrastructure, cloud security, software development, things like that. So excited to.
I'm going to start
here.
with a fun fact about the panel here. Several of the people on the panel here are married to each other. Now, Gauntlet teaches you a lot. And we give you a lot of skills. We match you with a job. Do not come here necessarily thinking you're going to find a life partner. All these people suggested that their partners join the program or came together. I just want to establish that before we go into the discussion here. But I think the fact that everyone is bringing people with them and the people most important to them to go through the program is validation that this is something that's meaningful, impactful, and willing to go through a sacrifice. So we'll talk a little bit about the challenger experience, but I really want to get a little bit more technical as a marketing person who probably not well versed in a lot of this. I think the people listening would probably like to hear what you guys are working on, what you're doing that's interesting. But maybe just briefly, what brought you to Gauntlet? How's it been going since then? We can go kind of in order, or you can just jump in, and then we'll get into what are you working on now? What's cool? What's disappointing you? Go from there.
I will start. So briefly, what got me into Gauntlet was actually started because of crypto. So crypto ended up meeting Patrick through Vanessa, my wife, and Patrick was posting all over X. Here's my Gauntlet experience. This is what I'm doing. We were so curious that we ended up asking him, "Are you up for a call?" And he's like, "Yeah." At the time, we were in Malaysia. Yeah, at the time we were in Malaysia, and so we get a phone call from Patrick. It's dark outside, 11 p.m., midnight over here. He's walking around. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. Like, you guys should definitely come check out Gauntlet." And that's what brought us.
You go.
No, because I came because you came. So, how about you say yours first?
I kind of already did.
Okay. My husband graduated from Cohort 2. During Cohort 2, he kept telling me the amazing things that they were doing and all the things that he was learning. And he goes like, "You need to come." And I was like, "No way. 7 weeks away from the kiddos. It's going to be very difficult." And then he started to make a project with Montessori. And I'm a Montessori lover, I call it. But I became a guide while I was homeschooling my kids. And the connection just seemed very perfect that I was now able to, after self-taught engineering, mix that with something that I've been doing for so many years. It's been about 8 years now. So once he started doing that project, that really got me excited. And I started to think more about it. And I applied for Cohort 3, and that's how I ended up here.
You're talking about Natalie?
Sure. Yeah. So
we have -1. So
yeah. Initially, my wife. Actually, there she is. She was supposed to present here. If you want to come up.
I got space for you.
All right. Well, she'll be right here. Hold on.
You know this is live.
We're talking about how you made it to Gauntlet.
That's a really funny story. So I actually found out about Gauntlet through him. And I found out about it a day before the deadline to submit your application was due. And I applied kind of on a whim. And I told my husband, "Okay, if I get it, then we'll do it and we'll figure it out." Well, it turns out that we kind of wanted to get married. So I had to postpone Cohort 1. Then I reapplied for Cohort 2, and now I'm here. But yeah, it was kind of magical. It was because of him. Yes. My experience in Cohort 2 was amazing, extremely challenging. I would say probably pretty life-changing, mostly because Gauntlet is a pure force function that puts you in like a fast track mindset. You will not survive here if you don't work hard. And you will be pushed to work harder than you ever have and think faster and deeper about problems that you've never tackled end to end. And you'll also be pushed to really take ownership for your product end to end, which is something that very few people have the opportunity to do unless they kind of go out and search how to do it in the wild and also have a lot of personal drive to get it done. And I got to make all these friends. Literally, all of these people are my real life friends. So it's amazing. And my husband has been in it too. So there's a big sense of community. And it's pretty wonderful because, I mean, how often do you get to talk to all these like brilliant, hardworking, driven people that also understand the grind set? So, yeah.
Yeah. So like she said, I found out about Gauntlet through Twitter. At the time, it wasn't really a good place for me to jump into the 10-week program. But once she went through it, I saw how much fun she had and all of the, skills and friends that she made. And it sort of, Gauntlet is kind of like a summer camp for engineers. You're at sleepaway camp and you make all these friends. And then by the end of it, you're like, man, I've made all these friends and now they're all about to go home. Except Patrick's been hiring too many of them. So they all come here and then, you get to hang out with them. So initially I'm kind of an old school engineer, very grouchy on AI, quite skeptical of its utility. And I still have my reservations, but through Gauntlet, I've really been able to push myself and see where the tools are useful and how they can really enhance my productivity and be useful in the projects that I've worked on. But more than that, it's been a great opportunity to meet a lot of really amazing people. It's extremely rare for you to be in a place where there's 60 people who have all been filtered to be kind of like you. You know, they all kind of think the same. They all kind of work hard like you do. They're all interested in technology, all interested in pushing themselves. And I've never had an easier time making friends with people. So I think that is really what Gauntlet provides more than any other place ever could.
Well, maybe you could find your spouse here. So based on that, or at least a really good friend. I am going to stop the commercials for Gauntlet in just a second, and we're going to get into some technology stuff. But what I will say, one last commercial, is you can still apply for the next cohort. It does start on Monday, and it is a big commitment. But if you are looking for your next opportunity or challenge, it is not only 3+ years of experience. We have other programs that we are partnering with the government on to provide capabilities and skills for AI talent across the federal government. So if you are interested, recently graduated, or perhaps have 1 or 2 years of experience, and you're thinking, what's going to be the next challenge? How can I contribute? Go to the website, apply. By the time that we're done with this presentation, you could have had your application in. I see Drew in his office down there, and he will be reviewing it live, maybe before this is even over. So that being said, I would love to hear a little bit. Isaac, you said you're skeptical of AI. Maybe we start with that. Were any of you skeptics before you joined, and have you truly changed your mind?
I had never used AI before I joined, like hardcore. And I was a skeptic, but I think we all saw the wave. You know, we looked at what was going on, and we noticed that if we didn't catch it, we were going to get swept away. And much like my husband, traditional software engineering background, very kind of stubborn and pretty stubborn. And now I kind of feel like an octopus. So after 1,000 hours in Gauntlet, and then all of the hours that we have thereafter, we've all ingrained in ourselves to spend at least a certain amount every day just to keep up with the latest AI tools and to play with whatever new agentic thing is out there. And it's insane. You learn to use it like you would a programming language or some other sort of software tool. The productivity gains are amazing. And you learn how to tune it to whatever output you particularly want. It's vastly different than anything else I've used to build, but it's really fun too.
I was not a skeptic on AI. I was, however, a skeptic on Gauntlet. I wasn't really sure about it. And honestly, if it wasn't for Patrick being someone that we had known, I'm not sure how I would take it, but it was his phone call of like just seeing how excited he was of what he was building, all the projects that he was able to do, and just the shifting your mindset of there's no limitation. You can find a loop. There's an answer for everything. You just need to be curious to ask those questions.
Yeah, and I think it's just the way that you use it after Gauntlet. Honestly, before Gauntlet, I would use some AI, but it was very beginner level, I would call it. And after the 1,000 hours that you explain, and the 1,000 more that come after with work, it honestly is just a different way that you end up utilizing the AI and the tools that comes with it.
Yeah, so I tried to use AI multiple times at my previous position and just ran into a lot of bottlenecks with the quality of output. About 6 months ago, I think we all kind of noticed that the harnesses and the models were changing quite a lot. And I wanted to, kind of see where things were going. I'm less skeptical of AI's utility in general right now. I think that there's a lot of use cases and tooling that can be built that, you can do things with AI that no other software could do. Things like, the chatbots that we have, or, automated, like log assessment systems, things like that really can create a huge boost in productivity. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been up till 3 in the mornings parsing through logs, trying to figure out what happened. And now AI can you can dump a gigabyte file into an AI and have it parse it in a couple minutes. The one thing that I think is still an open question is what an AI first system looks like over the next 3 to 5 years. You know, you start programming with something, and the analogy that I've been using is like old school programming was like driving an old manual car from the 50s. You know, everything was connected to the road through a piece of metal. And currently, I feel like programming with the agentic models right now is like driving a minivan on ice. You have a very limited control of where things are going. But I think that there is a real opportunity for people coming to Gauntlet to maybe try to find ways to fix that problem. I've been doing my own experiments, and I think the benefit of AI and how I've been able to use it is to try out a ton of ideas. You know, it might not be something that is long-term maintainable at first, but you can try out far more concepts and ideas and prototypes than you would have been able to do before. So that's something that I've gotten a lot of utility out of.
I want to make a note about AI too. Something that I've discovered that I didn't know before is that AI is really good at frontier problems if you know how to apply it. One example is NP hard problems. So I don't know if any of you have ever, I'm sure that all of us have come across our share of those. But those are problems that are pretty much impossible to solve in a reasonable amount of time. I've used agentic systems now to solve some of those. Another one is something like really difficult math research problems. I have got a personal project of trying to solve a couple of really hard math problems, and AI has basically taken me from 0 to bah on all of those. They're not solved yet, but yeah, you can't really do that on your own without an entire research team. Unless you use AI.
I think one of the questions that we hear often from people that are either attending night school, which is available every Wednesday night for free if anyone's interested in learning, is what are some of the questions you get in the interview process that is inherently different with AI? How do you prove you're an AI engineer? What does that even mean for people? And how do you start thinking about that? Because I know one of the key things that you do at Gauntlet is go through a lot of interviews. And now several of you being on the other side are actually interviewing people for roles at your company. So I'd be curious if you have any thoughts on that. You want to get us started? Sorry, I'm volunteering. Oh, you already have a mic.
Do you mind repeating the first part of the question?
What do you need to do in an interview to prove you're an AI person? What kinds of questions do you expect from this?
I'd say probably at least have an fundamental understanding of the different models that you're using, why you're using them, understanding token cost, things like that. Because I think for most companies, everyone's like AI everything, but like AI everything is extremely expensive. And so being able to really understand that and being able to at least ask the employer questions of, you know, so what is the AI budget? What are services you're currently using? Because I think it'll give the person who's about to hire you a better understanding of, well, this person isn't just going to use this really, you know, strong model for every single thing they're going to do and just kind of burn through tokens, right? Not everybody has the ability to work at super builders where, you know, maybe they've got a nicer budget than some other companies. So I'd say that's something that you should keep in mind.
I won't take the job unless I have a $20,000 token budget per month. So yeah, there's that. So maybe in a serious note, I would say that an AI engineer would probably spend more time interviewing the interviewer and asking very critical questions. It's like as I was mentioning earlier, how unblocked am I? You know, how much access do I have? How many changes are you willing to allow me to make? Things like that. How much of the envelope are willing to allow me to push? And so I have found that some of the best engineers are really, really great at, you know, not only just like interviewing, but also pushing the envelope inside of the interview itself, and just asking the critical questions of like, if you genuinely really care so much for this mission, you know, how willing are you allowing me to go in order to be able to execute on that mission.
Something else that will probably distinguish you as an AI engineer in the eye of a traditional interviewer is to put their problem in the context of AI. AI is a velocity function, but it can often compromise quality. So if they give you a software problem, you should tell them why adding AI will make it better. In my everyday, I've played around with, for example, agentic harnesses where there are multiple agents that each have roles. And for example, there's a QA agent, and there is a fixer, and there's a reflection loop, which is a very common pattern across lots of AI pipelines, including Claude and Anthropic. You should have the knowledge of that and apply it to the field that your interviewer is trying to use, so that you can tell them, I'm not just going to throw AI at this problem. I actually know how to apply it to make it go better and faster.
We have a few more minutes, and I have a lot of questions, but I want to see if anybody here has anything they want to ask before I continue along all of your time. Do we have any questions? All right, we got one in the audience. I'm going to walk out here and do this.
I wanted to ask those questions for maybe the people who want to start a career in this. I know some of you came from non-traditional backgrounds. What would be the advice you would give for those people maybe watching, how to start in this career, and what things would you recommend them to start in this path or in this career?
Oh God. Yeah. Do hard shit in public. That's like probably foundational. Do really, really hard shit in public, and be willing to fail in public. I think that's it's important. It's important to, put yourself out there. It's important for you to try really, really hard things. I'll give you one of my favorite examples. And this is how Natalie and I became friends in Cohort 2. I still remember it was week 3. It's our first week here, and it was team week, and I still remember, I thought my team had built probably the best team project, and we were doing a project. We did this like 3D CAD AI generation with natural language and stuff like that. We were like, man, this is so cool, and like a lot of the partners were super impressed. And I remember looking at Ash after doing, I was like, yeah, we were the best project, right? And he's like, yeah, well, Natalie basically cured cancer upstairs. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then she presents, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not going hard enough then. And so, it goes back to the principle of like, people that are trying, the really hardest, like going, full bore and trying the hardest things, they tend to like gravitate to each other. And so, Natalie and her team did some really, really cool stuff on their team project. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say learning by doing. It's something that the three of us work together. And it's something that honestly, you could read as many books, listen to as many podcasts, or anything that you want to get into, all the bookmarks you have on X. But until you actually go in and execute any of them, that's when you really learn. So stop bookmarking, stop watching all those tutorials, and actually start executing.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and just know when you're going into this field that you're signing yourself up to be a lifelong learner. Even before AI, the field moved pretty quick, and there was a lot of things that you had to upskill on. Otherwise, you end up being the guy who only knows Java 8, and then by the time you eventually get left behind. But that's also the best thing about it, like programming and engineering, is that there always is something to learn. You're never completely done. I think for people who are new to engineering in general, I would say don't neglect your fundamentals. You might not be writing code by hand for very much longer, if ever, in your career, depending on how good these tools get. But you still need to know the vocabulary and the concepts that go along with all this. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to drive the models to build the right thing. And it would be very easy to be tricked into thinking that they're doing something that they're not.
I also would say if you're a beginner looking to get into software engineering, check out hackathons. They are extremely beginner friendly, and you know what? There's a pretty high likelihood you might actually win money. So it's like a 2-for-1 thing. And then you do something at the hackathon, you post about it on Twitter, like Patrick said, and then you just continue doing that. And then at that point, you're going to build a GitHub portfolio. You might build an audience on Twitter, and that will really help you get into a position like when you get to Gauntlet, you'll just build a confidence that you've actually built applications. Even if maybe you're still a little rusty on the fundamentals, you have time to learn that.
The cancer thing is a really funny story, Patrick. Okay, so the story behind that is that that's an idea that has been in the back of my mind since college, but I couldn't build it. It's kind of like the NP hard problem and the math problem thing. So I agree with Patrick. Do hard shit. Do things that you think are impossible and just try to do it. And if you don't know about the agentic tools themselves, you might need to invest a little bit of money. But I think, for most of these models, $20 a month is kind of the entry point for a certain tier, and you can experiment and see how far you can get. So, just start talking to ChatGPT, talk to Claude, experiment with research tools like Manus or Grok. Ask people, we're all on social media, so I'm sure, ask us what our favorite tools are. We'll probably talk about them. We talk a lot. But if you have a crazy idea that you think is impossible, I challenge you to look at it with AI.
Any other questions from the audience? I got one down here. Hang on. Here we go.
All right. One of the things that we discuss in Gauntlet a lot is system design. In your life after Gauntlet, what new systems have you put in place to manage yourself?
When you say system design, are you talking about like engineering systems, or are you just talking about systems in general?
Well, I was talking about systems in general. I was thinking about engineering system design because that's what Gauntlet talks about. But obviously, high IQ people that you are, you've thought about it in other domains.
Okay, yeah. So systems exist in every facet of what we do, not just the engineering, but just literally how you operate as a professional. And really famous James Clear quote is, you never rise to the occasion, you only fall to the lowest point of your systems. And having really, really great systems is what allows you to continue to not only evolve, but also just accelerate. And so one of my biggest things that I like to say is, the best engineers are ones that are constantly trying to improve their systems for how to learn, systems for engineering, systems for communicating, and so on. So I would say, I'm kind of giving a broad answer, but systems not only are important, but they're foundational to you as a professional.
I'd say right now in work, we're kind of experiencing a system shift per se. I come from, I guess, traditional software engineering where, you would push a couple of PRs, maybe a week, very slow, right? And now you can do multiple PRs in a day. And so keeping up with that velocity of reviewing your code, making sure you're not breaking things, it's made us three really just look at our entire process and do research using things like Manus and Grok, seeing what people are doing today, April 2026, because things just change so frequently. From what I've seen, from what I've read, there doesn't seem to be a right answer yet, but I think it's just a matter of continuing to experiment and being totally fine that you're probably not going to get it right the first 5 times.
Ooh, I've got so many. I got so many for you. Oh my gosh. So I have this entire repository of skills and rules and resources that I just have my agent hooked up to reference whenever I want to build something. So if there's a programming convention like dry or don't repeat yourself or any other, heck, even solid, I've got all of the specific conventions I want in here in this thing, and it does it. I have a skill for me that does a daily update at the beginning and at the end of the day that then pulls all the stuff I have to do in the day from a bunch of different places. I have particular tools for different things. So some tools are really good at visuals. Like Gemini is actually really good at design. I don't know, man. At this point, it's a microcosm of systems for whatever. Whenever there's a need and I feel friction, I'm like, can I make that better with a skill or with AI? And to be fair, AI isn't always the answer. People have mentioned, and my husband has too, that if you lack the fundamentals, you can really get yourself into trouble. But if you define your own fundamentals and orchestrate them with your AI tools, then you're usually pretty safe. What else do I have? Automated systems that check the PRs that I do, like the traditional CI/CD stuff. Deterministic systems that ensure that the code I produce matches literal deterministic rules that I want to match so that I don't always rely on AI. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like this is an eldritch horror of a system at this point.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm still in Gauntlet, so I haven't had much time to think about anything but today, really. But I'm already starting to think about ways that I can incorporate AI to manage, all these like tedious tasks, like making sure that the maintenance guy is showing up on time and that things are being scheduled. And when my wife and I have our first child here in a couple of months, that we aren't taking on too much cognitive burden with keeping up with feeding schedules or with the house, so that we can just focus on the fact that we are together and are taking care of our child. And when we do go back to work, that there isn't so much to worry about. So that's kind of my hope leaving Gauntlet.
I think after you have your kid, we'll revisit that question and see if they completely destroyed your plans for using AI to reduce your cognitive load. We only have about 1 or 2 more minutes, but what I'd love to finish with is a question on one tool you're currently using that's not sort of out there that everybody knows about that you would recommend people try. You want to start first because you've got the mic, Isaac?
Sure. Yeah, so the tool that I've been using lately is OpenCode. It's a free and open source harness. I like it a lot because you can see what's going on inside of it. You can tweak it to whatever you want it to do. It's very easy to write plugins for it. I've been able to kind of jerry-rig this whole system up where I can interact with it over text or over like a chat agent that I have on my phone, get push notifications for when agents are done running. Well, my laptop is off doing whatever, so I can go to the coffee shop or whatever while I'm taking a break, but still make sure that things are running in the background. So that's been quite enjoyable.
Yeah. So Quinn 3.6 just got released this morning. I've already set up the model and everything locally, and it's doing some training iterations right now. I'm really excited about that. Jules, it just got released by Google, and it's doing really, really great job. Basically just agentic cron jobs on making iterative improvements on security, on design, on performance, on any given repo. And then last but not least is Perplexity Computer. I was, if you had spoken to me about a month ago, maybe, I was beating the drum on Manus really, really hard. And then Perplexity Computer came out of nowhere, and it's reigning supreme as far as like my daily driver. So yeah, those are probably my go-tos.
I'm using Hermes agents, and I've been tying it to the second brain, which I'm executing with Carpathy loops. I don't get to experiment as much as these guys do because my project right now at work is taking all my time. But when I do have some free time, that's my personal agent for anything that has to do with home and kids. And those are the two that I've been connecting, the latest thing that I've been experimenting with.
Are you throwing shade? Is that a little bit of shade? It's like, oh, I don't have as much time as you guys.
Or budget.
or
budget.
All right, I'd say I'm pretty basic as far as like what I've been doing. Been really enjoying routines on Claude, but recently I learned about wikis, and so I've been kind of doing my own like health wiki, where I've like, don't kill me guys, but I've uploaded a lot of health data, training logs, diet, all these things, and so it's been pretty great to just kind of like check in. I like text my bot, and then it tells me the workout for the day, and I can just kind of like talk to it throughout the day of how my sleep is. You know, did I have an energy drink before my workout? So I think just for that, it's been really great because I used to be just like a manual writer, writing everything on journals. So being able to digitalize it and getting really fast input, not just on my things, but also like other trainers that I'm really into. It's been pretty cool. So yeah.
Claude Design was recently released, which is really cool. Great for wireframing. Playing around with that for those that use, Figma and other jamming stuff. I tend to build a lot of the tools that I use. There's always going to be, agentic tools, but the tricky part is figuring out which ones are the right ones for you. But yeah.
Touching into that for people who use Figma or people who don't, pencil.dev. I actually, so I briefly touched Claude Design, but I do really enjoy pencil.dev because I can make all the wireframes, all the iterations on there. I can see every single thing that we go through as far as the different pages of what, like, I have a background in UI UX design as well. And so I can see all the iterations. I can communicate with my through Claude on there and just make all of that without having to convolute the documents I have on my repo. So yeah, pencil.dev. Yes.
Okay. Well, we also have two Challenger champion case studies, right? I believe Nani and Natalie, both of you were written up at some point. Didn't we write? Weren't you a participant in a write up that Tom did of?
Oh, I thought you meant write up like we got in trouble or
I was
something.
like, we got in
Written up?
trouble.
No, like we wrote up
When
how
are we in
great you
trouble?
are.
Oh, okay.
I saw both of our faces. We were like, we
what
got
were you guys getting
written
up to
up.
before you got in here? Oh my. Well, it was supposed to be a nice, like, please go and download the great case studies about how they're integrating AI into their lives. But now you might want to just message them on X about what else they're doing. Appreciate everybody joining us on the live stream. We got 2 more demos. We're now running ahead of schedule. You're all welcome for that. And getting closer to the end here. So we're going to bring the next group up. Thank you all for participating and joining us. And we appreciate it.
Thank you.
AI is the greatest force multiplier for talent that there has ever been. I think it's a bigger force multiplier than the internet or industrialization or the steam engine or anything we've ever seen. Gauntlet is a super intensive training for the smartest people on the planet where we try to get them to the cutting edge of AI and then we match them with hiring partners.
Either you believe in the AI revolution or you don't. If you truly want to become elite, if you truly want to hone in on your AI skills, fully immersing yourself in the Gauntlet is the fastest and the best way to do so. It's the fastest because it's 10 weeks, 1,000 hours all in, and you get a job on the other side. And then it's the best because it's free. We cover everything, all expenses paid. All you have to do is focus, and if you focus, you can become an AI evangelist at a company.
Everybody gets a studio apartment, food, transportation, just anything to help create an atmosphere where our challengers can do their best work and work as hard as they can for the time they're with us.
When you're here and you are just siloed in and they are taking care of everything, it allows you to almost unlock a space of your brain that is always occupied by the to-do list. You're just absolutely locked in.
For me, it was like, I need to figure out a way to get really good with AI tools really quickly, and that requires a full-time commitment. If you have a job and you're sort of playing around with it around the edges, you have work to do. You don't have 12 hours a day to just be like, I'm only gonna do this and I'm only gonna learn how to use these tools.
I worked at a private company that contracted for government entities, so couldn't use AI for security reasons, and I didn't want to get left behind, so I joined Gauntlet.
It doesn't matter if you come in with Python knowledge, Java knowledge, what coding.
All right, ready to rock?
So this is a team. Every Gauntlet cohort, we have a team that does a music-related project. This one, like, is pretty cool in my opinion because, like, YouTube MP3 was a big thing for a while, but they made a pretty cool iteration of that, more or less, for like a problem that a lot of musicians have. But let's relock in and let's welcome O Sheet. All right. sure that you turn one mic off and then hold next to here so you can hear the sounds. Okay, just go one mic for this demo. All right. Turn all of yours off except for one, or you will hear that feedback. All right. Just hold the mic next to it.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. So we are team Oh Shit, and we're here to blow up your minds with our app, our cool musical app. So.
Oh, how do I mute this?
No idea.
Mute tab.
All right. So as I was saying, we are Team Oh Shit, and we are here to blow up your minds with our cool app. Now, learning music is hard. However, finding shit music shouldn't be. So that's the problem that we are solving here with our app, and we're going to be demoing it pretty soon. Now, for that, for the demo, we would like to request a song from the audience. Any takers? All right, Star Wars. Cool, geeky song. So good choice. So here, Rag is going to be looking for it on YouTube to demo how we just take the URL of the song and we drop that into the app, and she's gonna get that started while we continue our demo, because it takes a couple of minutes to the process. So while that is happening, Ross is gonna talk to us about the problem that we are solving.
Thanks, Luis. Sheet music is pay to play. A hit song like Golden typically runs about $6 a pop. This compounds pretty quickly. You also only get one publisher's take. Niche songs or certain arrangements typically aren't even available at all. It's this friction that keeps beginners stuck and unable to progress. It takes an accomplished musician typically several hours to transcribe a single song by ear. This is a difficult process, and beginners typically don't have the ear for it. Community transcriptions are typically full of errors and have unreadable notation. We created an OSheet to address these problems.
Yeah, so we've got sheet music that's one, expensive, and we've got music that is low quality. But what if you could have free sheet music that's like actually good? And what if you could get it in minutes, print it out, put it on your piano, and play it today? That's exactly why we built OSheet. So I'm gonna pass it over to Kevin. He's going to explain the end-to-end flow.
Thanks, Jack. So yeah, our app does this in 4 steps. There's ingestion, transcription, arrangement, and engraving. Ingestion, you drop the YouTube URL in. We search for existing covers to be able to simplify the process. During transcription, we convert that cover into a MIDI file for downstream processing. In the arrangement step, we put together the actual piano sheet music. And then engraving, we write it to PDF. So now I'm going to hand it off to Rack, who's going to demo the app.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, let's see how this cooked. So yeah, voila, you have the rendered Star Wars sheet music. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner than the example we showed before that had like rests outside the staff and just like very messy notes all about. And aside from the sheet music, we're able to play it here. And if you can give me a drum roll while it loads and observes the rest. And aside from the sheet music view, we also have a toggle with a piano roll view. So it's a bit more beginner friendly for kids or, just people that are new to piano. And below, we have the option to download the sheet music as either a PDF, a music XML, or the MIDI file. We're also taking it a step further. So to introduce interactivity, if you visit our app, you can click on this link below and try out another platform that will allow you to actually play along with the rendered sheet music. Yes, so that is it, Sheet for you. And thank you for being here. You can visit both our GitHub or try out the app yourself using the QR codes here. And we'll open it up to any questions. It gracefully errors out. Like it will tell you like the music isn't available. But as we continue to develop the app, like this was built in a week, and we want to continue working on our reinforced learning pipeline so that we can open it up not just to YouTube songs, but to like audio files or MIDI files or like a title search. We just want to get like one thing done really, really well first. So once we have the piano process like tackled and like streamlined, then we'll like explore other instruments.
We are going to rip one more demo. Dude, this team changed the name of their project so many times. It was a big problem this week. But let's welcome Pelametric. Is this a good starting spot for it? Or do you want... Good? All right.
What's going on, team? This is the moment everyone's been waiting for. Almost there, just an extra 10 minutes. So if you guys use X, which I assume you do, you've probably come across this clip in the past couple of weeks. It's basically Jensen Huang going over the importance of keeping track of engineers' token spend and how he expects his engineers to spend close to $200,000 a year on tokens. So if you spend any time with us at Gauntlet, and if you haven't, you probably would still know that that's kind of a bit unrealistic. There's no actual correlation between token spend and the quality of output. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you actively keep track of token usage across your projects? Okay, there we go. Quick show of hands, how many of you keep track of token usage across pull requests? Okay, nobody. Token usage across skills, across plugins. Okay, there we go. So enter Pelametric. Pelametric is an open source analytics dashboard meant to bridge the gap. Most model providers are just a black box, and they just don't give enough information for engineers and engineering teams to get better visibility and insights into how to improve their workflows. So that's what we're trying to solve here.
So as Ollie was saying, today more and more engineering teams are turning to Claude, Cursor, Codex for all their AI needs. But the problem is all of this is just flowing right into a black box. On one end, we have tokens being used, costs going up, but leaders are still struggling to find that connection between all that usage versus what's actually providing outcomes. On the other end, we have engineers, whether it's Gauntlet challengers or people in their 9 to 5, just grinding away and working maybe 80 to 100 hours a week, they don't have the time to go back through their session logs and figure out exactly what was working for them versus where they're just bleeding tokens. So that's where Pelametric comes in to solve that.
So the solution is to build a full picture around it. Pelametric gives you a complete overview of how your favorite AI agent has been working in your teams that is directly tied up with your GitHub accounts. It's not a billing tool or not a token counting tool. It's a full system. And as an engineer, you get to see everything, how well the prompt has been working for you or how well that you have spent your token per PR or per sessions. And as a manager, you get to benchmark all these costs, all these sessions across the teams, and maybe even promote what's have been working or maybe create a skill that will work in the future for the teams. The information has already been in your machine. Pelametric just gives a lens to actually see it.
All right, so we're going to take a quick look at the dashboard. So the way that this works, an engineer manager would set up an account, install the GitHub application into their organization, and then get a link to send to their developers so they can run a script and start sending the telemetry that's already on their computers to the system. So here on the dashboard, you can see the entire team. You can see the PRs that they've created, which ones have been merged and closed. And also we're tying that into the input and output token for that developer, as well as the lines that are going into the repo and out of the repo. Also on the bottom, you have tokens being tied to the skills that you're using or the MCP servers that you're using. And just by looking at these tables, you can see some really interesting information. For example, you can see the input tokens that Walid has in comparison to his output and the lines of code that he did versus somebody like me that did 1.5 and 25 million as output. So from here, if you want to, you can start diving deeper into a particular developer. You can take a look at their PRs. You can take a look at this, their top skills and tokens that went into it, MCPs, tools, the files that they've been working on, as well as the sessions. And if there is any interesting session that you want to dive into it a little bit deeper, you can click on it and actually see the full script and the prompts that that engineer used for that session. So these are some of the insights that we're giving the engineer managers and the engineers on our platform.
Thank you. As the team has really shown today, most modern engineering teams are already using agents across their organization's code bases every day in all their repos. If you're an engineering lead and you're tired of guessing at ROI, please head to pelametric.com/intro and we'd love to chat with you. But for everyone here and all solo developers, the same problem exists. We all have gigabytes of session data, logs just sitting on our machine, and there's valuable insights there as well. To showcase this, we've created these set of shareable cards. So if you head to pelametric.com/card and just auth with GitHub, you'll get a personal command that you can just run in your terminal. We run a script. It takes about 10 seconds. Everything stays local, so we don't touch or store your prompts or any of your code base, simply aggregating counts. I'm going to quickly show my personal cards here. So as you can see, I'm almost at 1 billion tokens across Claude and Codex. I'm currently at a 41-day streak thanks to Gauntlet here in Austin. Heat map looks pretty nice. I've earned the accolade of Midnight Architect, and that's because my peak hour is 11 p.m. So I'm a night owl. And then there's a few other stats as well. So head to pelametric.com/card, generate yours, share on socials, and compare with your friends. If you find this problem space interesting, please reach out to any of us. We'd love to chat and pick your brain. With Pelametric, you can now make your AI output measurable. Thank you. Questions? Thanks, guys.
All right. So to recap, we're now done with the presentations. For the online audience, the next cohort starts soon. Drew, head of admissions. If you don't want or can't do the next cohort, apply to the subsequent one that starts in
July 6th.
Okay, good.
July 7th.
For those of you here, we're going to hear some quick closing remarks from Austin, and then we're just going to hang out and have some food. So let's welcome Austin back to the stage.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'll keep it brief for here, but first of all, how does challengers? How do you guys feel? Do you feel any sense of relief yet? Any of that washing over, or are we still stressed? Feeling good? Awesome. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm super excited to be approaching the end of Gauntlet with you all. As crazy as that sounds, like you guys have never experienced this before, but every Gauntlet toward the end, you can't believe that there was ever a time before Gauntlet, and then after Gauntlet's over, you're like, I can't believe I'm not in Gauntlet right now, and there's a little bit of withdrawal that happens, but it'll be a lot of fun. I wanted to thank everybody involved, from Ash, Jonathan, team, Javik, everybody who helped you guys out, to the challengers, to the operations team, and those are some really, really impressive demos. I know it always doesn't sink into all of us that what you can do in a week does not feel real or normal to a lot of folks in the outside world, but that's a really, really impressive thing to have done in a week. So I hope that you all feel really proud. I hope that we're excited to see where you go next, and we're excited to keep in touch and hopefully bring you back with your spouses for the next cohort's showcase. But with that said, we're gonna wind it down and have dinner and celebrate and hang out. Graduation, as you all know, is tomorrow. So if you're tuning in online, thank you for joining us, and thank you all for being here.